Board of Trustees regular meeting Monday, January 7, 2013 at 7:30 to order. Please rise and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic which stands one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Adoption of agenda. I have two additions under new business. I'd like to add letter N, DPW uniform request, and letter O, sidewalk to substation entrance door request. And are there any other additions or deletions, please?
I wanted to put on there about discussion about the training for Planning Commission and ZBA.
Say that again, training for ZBA?
Training sessions for Planning Commission and ZBA.
Any other additions?
Just state that for the record, adding the audit report underneath the supervisor's report.
I'll make a motion to approve the amended agenda, adding under 13 supervisor's report, audit report, and adding under new business the DPW uniform purchase, sidewalk, and training sessions.
Support.
Motion by Trustee Turgey, supported by Treasurer Proctor. Any other discussion? All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion passes. Public comments. Anyone here for public comment? Sure. Sir, do you want to make a public comment?
Yes, I would.
Please come to the microphone and state your name and address, please.
My name is Eric Gala, 36201 27 Mile Road. Here basically to talk about the problem that I'm having with this township in selective prosecution. I'm getting harassed by township ordinance officer. I've come to you personally to your home to try to resolve this issue. I've been lied to. There's been subterfuge happening here. I'm trying to resolve this without court. You're taking me to court. As soon as I tried to resolve with Mr. Murray here, he calls me at work, asks me if a van has been moved yet. I explained to him that my mailbox was just wiped out and I need to deal with that, and I'll call him as soon as I get it moved. As soon as he learned that my mailbox was missing, he mails me a court notice. didn't get the notice because it was transferred around because it couldn't get to my mailbox when I thought we had good terms at the time resolving any issue that you had, which was a grudge, which the complainant, according to you, Mr. Trombley, was Mrs. Ludeman, which is a 20-year grudge that her husband has with me. Now, this is wasting taxpayers' money going to court when I'm willing to and trying to resolve this issue. Instead, using subterfuge to try to have a court case without my being notified because you knew my mailbox was wiped out. That's low. Now you're saying this is a blight issue. My properties, buildings are 700 feet back from the road. Cannot be seen. Anyone here can go on Google Earth and do what do you call that when they drive by? They have a way of driving past the property. It looks exactly as it does across the street. Now the issue with the car, I moved the car. You said the van still had to be, it was a problem. That van's home parking space has been parked there for 22 years, and that was its place to be parked. I covered it with a tarp. I thought that was sufficient. I was told that it wasn't. I'm in the process of moving it when Mr. Murray over here decides to send a court date knowing that I don't have a mailbox. Luckily for me, I was able to get that, retrieve that, and I made it to court on time. Standing in the hallway of the court, waiting, I see Mr. Murray come walking in, try to get his attention. He walks right past me, approaches one of the prosecuting attorneys there. Obvious cronyism, slapping each other on the back, shaking hands, laughing, talking about whatever that they're going to do, go into a little room together for 10, 15 minutes. Come out with the same smiling, happy attitude. This time he approaches me in the hallway with an attitude, extreme attitude, that you do not give to a resident in this township. Tells me, go deal with the prosecuting attorney. Smiles, smirks, and walks out the door. I go walking into the same room with the man that was all jovial and laughing and shaking his hand. Total different attitude. I had to ask at that time to seek some type of counsel because I could see that this was not the way it should have been. I get home, I decide to call Mr. Murray to try to resolve this issue, but also tell him that I didn't appreciate the way he talked to me in that courtroom hallway. His response to me was, I can't talk to you. You are seeking counsel. I left a message for everyone here on this review board at the same time to please call me. Did any of you? No. I asked to be put on the minutes to explain the situation. I was told I have to go to the supervisor's office to do that. That was December 6th. I called every week after that. What's going on? What's going on? Finally, I get a call back from the deputy supervisor to tell me that I can't be heard here on the minutes of the meeting. Like any other resident of this town could request. I'm here now to let everyone here know that this grudge thing, which is using your department as a way of getting revenge on me, I don't appreciate this. First of all, this shouldn't be happening. That's why I invite you to look at the Google when they drive by with their, you can see going down the road what the property looks like. Look at it. Now, to stand on the roof of the top of a truck holding a camera up and trying to take a picture is ridiculous. So my whole point of being here today is I would like to try to resolve this. I'm told I can't talk to anybody. That's basically all I have to say right now.
Okay, thank you, sir.
Okay?
Appreciate your comments. Any other public comments? Approval of minutes, 12/3/12.
If anybody doesn't have any changes, I can make a motion to approve the minutes as presented.
Warren.
Motion by trustee Board, supported by trustee Turchi. Any other questions, discussion? All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion passes. Mid-month business. Just for the record, we had 4 mid-month business. One was authorization for RFP for attorney services. One was, per the minutes of November 2012 meeting, would be closed from 12/24/12 through 1, I believe it was, this should be amended, 2/13. And that's what it was, closed 12/24, reopened on the 2nd of 2013. It was amended. The third one, 26 windows. There were shades that were purchased. And I believe, Cam, them were $10.57 per shade. Is that what the cost roughly was? I think it is.
The cost was actually about $20 per
Was
shade.
it $20? I'm seeing an internet price of $10.57.
$10.57 ones were real thin.
Okay.
They were thinner than
Was revised.
what was already put in the other offices.
Authorization for purchases of 26 window shades due to the positioning of the sun in the building. And the last one was for classes for the 4 members of the Board of Review members. And recording secretary totaling 5, total cost of $125 for mid-month business. Sheriff's report. Any questions regarding the sheriff's report?
Actually, I do. For our sheriff, if I can ask you one question.
Jeff does not do the
Oh,
report,
okay.
but,
Then I'll catch up with him, because it's just about, I'm just kind of worried about it. I'll catch up with him another time.
okay.
So good.
Any other questions? Fire department report. Chief?
Good evening, everyone. I've submitted all the paperwork for month-end report for our December run count, along with my monthly report. The most important thing I want to point out is the third document, which is the year-end report, and the last number on the bottom of the page of that 2-page document is 507. That's how many runs that we had last year in Lenox Township. I did comparison to last year. That's an 18.5% increase over 2012, or correction, over 2011, which was a record year. So with that, that means that all related costs went up 18.5% also. So I just wanted to make sure that the board as well as the public are understanding that in our business, call volume never seems to go down, but this was a record increase year of 18.5%. So that's just a real quick synopsis breakdown of all 9 categories that we respond on. So if there's any questions, feel free. Otherwise, everything can be received and filed, unless anybody has any questions.
Any questions for the chief?
Thank you.
EMS report. Mr. White?
Good evening. Late today, I was able to finally get all of our statistical data together through the holiday period, and I emailed out a report to all of you. I'm not sure that you have had a chance to take a look at it just yet, but if you look at the next few days and have any questions, please feel free to give me a call. I just want to remind the board and those in attendance this evening, we have a blood drive here at the Township Hall tomorrow night. It's being sponsored by the EMS and the American Red Cross. It's from 3 until 9 p.m., so we hope to see all eligible donors here helping us out. I think the one other thing that's worth mentioning, and we'll maybe bring the actual document or what we received by at the next meeting as well, is the EMS was notified in late December by the Office of the County Executive that on January 31st, we'll be receiving an award called the Innovative Community Service Award. It'll be presented to the EMS at a morning meeting down at the Road Commission meeting where they're putting in the new County Centralized Dispatch Center. And basically what the award is for is being an organization that's kind of been a model in the county and basically in Southeast Michigan even for shared community service, where one organization works with numerous communities and municipalities to provide, in this case, emergency medical service as well as our community transit operation. The board members are all invited to attend. I sent you a note with where you can RSVP, or you can just contact my office if you're available, and I can RSVP on your behalf. With that, that's very nice that the county executive recognizes in that fashion. And like I said, I guess I'll have a little more to report on at the February meeting, and the initial award with me to share with you and our residents. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. DPW report.
Good evening. I believe everybody should have a copy of my report. I'd like to request to receive and file it. I'll be more than happy to answer any questions anyone may have.
We're doing anything with the ice rinks?
I'm sorry?
The ice rinks?
As soon as Mother Nature starts to cooperate, kind of hard to make ice on the ground that's not frozen. So,
what time of year is it usually? I know it's different every year, but are we usually looking at February?
you know, there's been times where I've been able to make ice before the holidays. I've had years where I haven't been able to make ice at all. So, yeah, I was starting to think we were getting close, but looking at the weather, it's going to be 50 and raining at the end of the week. So, it makes it kind of hard. You know, obviously, once we're able to start doing something like that, we're going to get it going.
Any other questions? Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Code enforcement report.
Shannon gave everyone a copy of the actual report, and I have both the December and January liquor inspection forms that will be filed in my office.
Thank you. Questions? Assessing Department report. I don't have one. Jeanette, do you know if Lisa provided a report this month?
I haven't received anything.
Okay. I can contact the department tomorrow and find out if they have one.
I thought that I seen something, me not being here and not getting my email, I was sure there was something in an email, but I do not see it here in the paperwork, so.
Yeah, I do.
All I have is like the board of review stuff that she was asking about.
We can follow up that tomorrow, Jeanette. If you make a note of that, we'll follow up on that tomorrow regarding a report from the assessing department. Thank you. Library report.
Receipt and file.
Thank you. Supervisor report. We said we'll use this time to go to the audit report. Mr. Bailey, the floor is yours, sir.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here tonight. I put a copy of your annual financial audit in each of your chairs tonight. What we'll briefly do is also put a presentation or an outline that we'll kind of go through very briefly. As you know, you contract with our firm to do an audit of your financial statements as of the end of June of 2012. As usual, we come in, spend a week and a half with your staff, go through a lot of the numbers, and this is a result of that. If you can turn in on the handout there to the first page, one of the first things in the audit report is something called the Independent Auditor's Report. You have what they call an unqualified or clean opinion. That's what the state of Michigan is looking for when they get your audit report. And basically what it means is everything is presented in accordance with general accepted accounting standards. And again, that's what the Michigan Department of Treasury is looking for when they get your audit report each year. The next two items we're not going to spend a lot of time with. In the audit report, there's something called the Management Discussions and Analysis. It's about a 4 or 5 page letter that just tries to explain some very summarized financial information to the reader. We'll talk a little bit more detail than that tonight, but just want to bring that up. It is required to get that unqualified opinion. Number 3 there just talks about what they call entity-wide financial statements. In your audit report, there's basically 2 sets of financial statements. There's the commercial way of looking at the township, and there's a traditional way governmental units have always reported. We're going to spend our time in the next few minutes talking about the traditional way. The only major difference is commercial accounting records the value of the buildings, any assets that you own on the balance sheet. Governmental units traditionally haven't reported those because it's more of a cash resource, what you can spend and what dollars you have to provide the services type there. If we look at row numeral 4, general fund, you'll see as of June 30th, your general fund had assets of $2,329,357. You had liabilities of $149,372, which left a fund balance or a carry forward into the year you're currently in of $2,179,985. And you can see the 2011 numbers right next to it, so you can get a comparison. Number 2 at the bottom of the page is what they call the statement of revenues, expenses, and changes in fund balance, or the operating statement. For the year, your general fund took in $869,975. You spent $866,958. So you would hit a positive or the good $3,017. So you were positive, almost a break even year, positive by $3,017. We're going to kind of pause there. If we turn back to page 4. We'll be pie graphs just for your
purposes, the presentation purposes. For 2012, your general fund, you'll see about 43% of your money came from federal or state sources, basically intergovernmental revenues and state shared revenues. 40% from taxes. So those two pieces of your general fund amounted to about 83% of your total general fund budget. And you can see the 2011 numbers down there. Last year, in 2011, the state sources amounted to 41%, and taxes was about 45%. So your taxes are down slightly from the year before, as you're well aware. Page 5 gives you the same information on your expenditures. Your general fund spent about what they call 80% of the dollars on what they call general government. Now, general government includes a lot of different categories. It includes the supervisor's department, the treasurer's department, the clerk's department, the assessing department, a whole bunch of other things. The state of Michigan comes up with a category of what's included with each category. They have a very standardized chart of accounts that they try to get one governmental unit to be comparable to another one. So although it shows general government, there's a lot of different pieces there, but it was about 80% of your general fund government. The one thing I do caution here, if you compare to maybe another governmental unit, you may find that your public safety in your general fund was about 14%. Some other municipalities may be a little bit higher than that, but the reason is because you pay a lot out of your PTA Pine Tree Acre Fund, your police contract to the tune of $530,000 a year, and your EMS contract of $330,000 a year. So if you were just to look at this piece and compare it to somebody else and say, wow, we don't spend as much on public safety. You just spend it in a different fund versus a lot of other municipalities. They want to bring that out so they're doing some comparisons of neighboring municipalities in the future. Number 6, page 6, just gives you a bar graph of your fund balance. You'll see it stayed pretty stable over the last 5 years, and I commend the board on doing on that. In these trying times with tax revenues going down, you've done a good job of controlling the budget. You'll see in the 2008 numbers there was a little over $2.2 million, and it's just under that today. So it's not a whole lot different than it was 5 years ago in your general fund. If we can turn back to page 3 of the outline. Or 2, sorry, 2, not the page 2. Again, as I indicated, fund balance is the amount of resources that the township has earned since its inception that's carried over from year to year. In total, as of June 30th, 2012, it amounted to $2,179,985. There's basically 2 classifications. The non-spendable portion is because it's something that's going to come back to the township, like advances to other funds or advances to other governmental units, but you can't appropriate it again. And then your final category is your unassigned. That's the money that would be available if you really needed to appropriate it for a purpose of $2,149,608. As you're well aware, there's a lot of other funds that are utilized to maintain or keep track of the township's activities. First of all, the road fund. The road fund took in revenues of $139,781. You had expenditures of $57,157, so revenues over expenditures for the year of $82,624. The one thing with road funds, a lot of times you build them up so that you can do a road project. So it's not unusual to have one year where there's quite a bit of revenues over expenditures, and then the next year expenditures over revenues, because as you know, $82,000 doesn't build a lot of roads there. Your fire fund had revenues of $514,306. You spent $355,611. Therefore, in excess of revenues over expenditures of $158,695. With that, a lot of times you accumulate dollars to buy capital assets. It's a planned budget item there. So just because of revenues over expenditures doesn't mean that that wasn't anticipated in that way. PTA fund. You'll see it had revenues of $2,365,000. You had expenditures of $1,059,780. You transferred out $516,398 to the water and sewer fund. So the PTA fund was for the good $788,893 for the year. You have 2 separate funds there. The liquor law enforcement fund. You'll see the revenues and expenditures. You were to the good $1,773 in the liquor and law enforcement. And your monitoring fee, you spent $521,000 more than you took in, basically a break even here.
Number 2 there, D2, just list the fund balance in each of those funds. You'll see the road fund had a fund balance of $623,823 as of June 30th, 2012. Your fire fund had $1,966,356. Your PTA revenue fund had $8,121,267 in it. Liquor law enforcement, $22,786, and your monitoring fee, $48,397. You also have what's called a debt service fund, and it's primarily mostly inactive. It's your Chapter 20 drain that's been, the debt has been paid off, and you kind of just keeping that to do upgrades to the system or maintenance to the system as it goes along. Once it has, a fund balance of $35,529. The final funds that we want to talk about is the water and sewer fund on page 3. You'll see the revenues and expenditures there, but I guess if in total, when you look at the financial statement, it'll show you had a net change in assets of positive 269. But there's a lot of things that go into that. Really, if you look at number 2, is probably the area that I just would like to point out. Your net loss in your water fund is about $681,000 in 2012. If you add back depreciation of $530,000, and then you subtract out what you had to pay in debt principal of $843,068 plus capital items you bought for $16, your water and sewer fund would really be in a negative by $1,011,000. And most of that is as a result of the debt issues for the intercounty drains, the intercounty water and sewer system there, that is being paid for partially by your PTA fund, by transfers in from your PTA fund. It is a significant amount of money. Why we kind of present it this way on this handout is just to show you that in the future, at least in the short-term future, that transfer is going to have to continue to take place to the tune of very large numbers, almost $1 million a year there. Working capital, if you took all your current assets in your water and sewer fund and you paid off all your liabilities, how much would you have left over? And you'd see you have about $227,503 there to kind of give you an idea of where you're at the end of the year. That's primarily the number section. Overall, I think you're in good financial condition. Again, the water and sewer fund needs help from the other funds, but at least you do have a fund that generates the dollars that can help pay for that those debts, bond issues that are out there issued by the various counties there. There's a couple other reports that is included in your packet, just in the back. Something called the Independent Auditor Report on Internal Control. If we become aware of any weaknesses, we have to put it in this report. Get mine with me. Can't pray up this box. Yeah, the first report is called the Report on Internal Control, and there's only one item on that, and it's kind of a technicality. According to a few years ago, when Enron and everything was happening, the accounting profession came up with the idea that all entities should have somebody on staff that could draft their financial statements, whether you're General Motors or whether you're the mom and pop gas station on the corner. Well, that's not really practical for clients that our size that we deal with. You contract with us to prepare that, but we have to comment that you do rely on us to pull that together for your financial statements, and they look at it as you don't have somebody on staff that can do that yourself. But again, probably 90% of our clients get that comment, and it's pretty typical. So there's nothing I would worry about there. The second letter is what they call the audit communication letter. And because CPA firms are not required to come and make a presentation like this, we do appreciate the opportunity to come and present this report to you. It just kind of goes through some of the things we talked about tonight. We didn't have any difficulties with the audit. Your staff is very, very cooperative with us. We work back and forth with the information, and everybody's there. Also with it, we attached, because we audit about 60 municipalities and nonprofit agencies, we become aware of maybe certain ways you might be able to change things and do things a little bit differently. We attach it to this report, and we have sat down with normally with the clerk, treasurer, and supervisor, but this year with
with the supervisor and clerk and went through them in quite a bit of detail. I'll be happy to cover any of them with you, or any questions on the audit report that you may have.
Any questions at this time? Only comment I had follows up. Once again, I think you guys did a great job. I definitely want to revisit the 5-year outlook once again to make sure that we keep that going. I'd like to talk with you regarding cost and when we should initiate that to make sure we're always looking ahead and we have everything under control.
A number of our clients are doing it nowadays, is looking at 3 to 5 years out in advance, whether, it just gives you a proactive approach if you see trends coming and so forth, and we'll be happy to help you if you need some help in that area.
Yeah, I'd like to get something from you, sir, presented to the board on that once again.
I'll get it to you within the next 2 weeks.
Fantastic. Any questions, Mr. Bailey? I think we're all set, sir.
It's a pleasure to work with you again.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Paul. Take care.
Treasurer's report.
It's hollering at me because I broke this already and I'm just back a short time. Anybody got any questions on the treasurer's report?
I'll make a motion to accept the treasurer's report.
Motion by trustee Churchy, supported by trustee Boyd. Any other questions, discussion? All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion passes. Orders and bills.
The total is $204,791.51. 204,791.51.
Any questions?
I make a motion to approve the orders and bills.
Total of
The total of $204,791.51.
Support.
Motion by trustee Churchy, supported by trustee Boyd. Deputy clerk, roll call please.
Turchi,
Aye.
Boyd,
Aye.
Attenbacher,
Aye.
Keith,
aye.
Trombley.
Aye. Motion passes.
Before we move on, I would like to, under my report, thank my gals that helped me. Everybody here has been great. 4 weeks ago, or 4 weeks Wednesday, I had back surgery, and without the help of everybody in here and the prayers and that, I wouldn't be sitting here tonight. So I do thank you all. And thanks, Mubby. 52 years ago, he took those vows. I don't think he realized what he was going to be getting into. In fact, he got a sympathy card from one of our buddies that's been through this. I I do appreciate all the beautiful flowers, the calls, the emails, the cards. Just been overwhelming. You've been great. So I'm not sure when I'm going to get back, but I am feeling good, and I'm anxious to get back. And it's good tonight to be here with you all. Happy New Year to everybody.
Trustees report. Trustee Churchy?
I really don't have anything for tonight other than to let our first responders, our fire department, and our sheriffs, and our EMS know that you're in our thoughts and our prayers. I know 2013 has not been a good start already, so keep up the good work and hang in there. Thank you.
Thank you. Trustee Boyd?
Having done this now for 18 years, I agree. Definitely it's a tough thing to do. I did go to the class before. The class was a lot of good training. I was very impressed with it. I really appreciate the board sending me to it. I got a lot of good information. Some of it I will be bringing to the manual program, putting in the manual, a lot of good stuff, policy manual. So again, I do appreciate that. My one meeting this month was with Chief Boucher. I went in there hoping to have like a 20-minute sit down on how the fire department works, and about 2.5 hours later I walked out of there just amazed at what they do and what he's got, and grants, and it's just very impressive. So far it's been a good 2 months. That's all I got.
Thank you. Clerk's report.
Earlier today, I received notification from the county that there are going to be the school district coordinating committee meetings next Monday. And so I need to know or make sure that the board is with me on the fact that we will continue to do the school elections through the township and not shove it back at the schools to have to do. And I'd like to be able to go to this meeting on the 14th and let them know that we're on board with that. So this just came today. So.
Has there been any problems doing them? I know it seems a lot easier for residents and for the schools that we do it because it's in one place.
Yeah, the consolidated elections, what that did was pushing all of the elections through the township or the local municipality, kept it so that the residents always know where they're voting. It used to be if you voted in the school election, you voted at the school. If you voted in a village election, you voted at the village. If you voted in a federal election or a township election, you came to the township. So back in 2005, the consolidated put it all in one spot so that residents would always know exactly where they needed to be because it wouldn't change. So with that said, we just have to approve continuing to do the school elections. And the school elections really don't cost us anything per se because it gets rebuilt back to the schools.
I'll make the motion that we authorize the clerk to continue doing the school elections. Support.
Motion by Trustee Churchy, supported by Treasurer Ottenbacher. Any other discussion? Questions? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries.
And that's all I have.
Thank you.
Make a motion to receive and file the remainder of the reports. Support.
Motion by Trustee Churchy, supported by Clerk Keith. Any other discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Unfinished business. Medical insurance rate increase. Jeanette, can I get you on this real quick too, for a quick, I know we finally got to speak to Mr. Bomarito. I just want to make sure for clarification purposes, everybody understands what the change was. And correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe it was based on that we lost one young guy.
That was my understanding,
Correct.
that it was the age.
We're being penalized because we lost one insured person, and it was a younger person. But the good news is, we're being told that once we pick up our new employee, that should put us back where we were basically.
understood.
So the additional Wesley and his age will correct our factor. That's how it's explained to me, and I think that's how you took it also.
In that conversation, yeah. Looking at the paper that I put on the counter I used tonight, it was the age adjustment, so that's what it went up 12%.
Yeah, because of his number being pulled out, our average age adjustment was
Right.
corrected up higher to a higher.
And it could be because everybody else that's on it is all roughly, it must be hitting another plateau, causing it to go up a little too.
Are we sure that Wesley is going to take the insurance?
I don't know.
Cam, yes?
He's indicated to me he will.
So he will actually decrease our cost.
Yeah, but that won't be, the numbers for that won't be until next year this time.
Doesn't make a lot of sense to me. Do we have something there in writing that you received? Well, I haven't had anything. Yeah. Because we took one person away.
This is the only thing, this is what I put on your, in front of you tonight. And that was the only thing you said about the age. Everything else went up or stayed the same. And he had no other explanation.
And he did a recheck on it too, I believe he said. That is the only factor that changed. We kept him on the phone probably an hour and a half easily, back and forth with this.
So with that said, I don't have the paperwork in front of me here. What are we saying that we're going to go up then? How much are we talking? Does anyone?
Do you still have that other?
18.9%.
Correct. He's saying that that should come back into, there should be a reduction once Wesley's on. And do you know when that would take effect? How long, Jeanette? I didn't think it was that long.
No, this rate will be this rate until next year.
February of next year, right?
Right.
That's when we have our annual. So we're stuck with this rate for our year.
Correct. It doesn't matter if he joins right now or if he joins in December. It doesn't matter. The rate, they do a rate analysis in this, like in November, October, November, and that's what we worked on a lot this year here in the fall, with getting all the people on Blue Cross and those forms that we were working on.
It didn't make sense, and this doesn't make sense to me either. Does everybody on this board think that this is right? We're going to go with 18%?
I understand what he's saying. I understand why that happened. Because our age actually increased across the board due to that.
Right, I mean,
Other people being taken off of it.
There's other factors, other employees that might be hitting milestones like 55, 50, maybe even a 60 or a 62. I'm not sure. If there's anybody hitting any of those milestones, that could this year, that could affect that rate too. But I don't know everybody's age to say who's where.
Well, looking at this, while the dental and vision, those are separate, right? Those are okay.
Right, dental and vision is 100% premium paid by the employee.
So my question is, if this is approved this way tonight, is this something that we could go to one of the other paint plans possibly in 6 months?
What do you mean?
It was just brought up that that's, that the rates are 18.9%, and that's what it is going to be for the year. Not a lot of time to look into stuff, not a lot of time to go back to the policy manual meeting before this one needs to go into effect. So if this is approved tonight for this to go into effect, and then we talk about all of this at the policy manual meetings, because the insurance is something that we really need to look at. So halfway through the year, if it was decided so, could we switch to one or the other?
Yes. To my knowledge, you can change your policy to any other company, we don't have to stay with Blue Cross, we can go to someplace, we don't have to stay with the benefits group. It's, at any time, we can make a change.
Is there actually someone that we could call and say, could you come and sit down with us and talk to us about this?
I could put it out there to Mr. Bomarito's the one that's I've always talked to.
This is a big item. We've been battling with this for some time, and something needs to be done. We can't keep paying these kind of premiums for 9 people, 7 people, whatever it is we have here. And I think we're just kind of spinning our wheels here. I'd like to see a phone call made and see if he could set up a time with us. And I'm sorry, 18%, that's not acceptable as far as I'm concerned. And I do not agree with that because we took someone off because of his age, and those of us that are getting older, that's discrimination. I'm sorry, I'm one of those that's probably the oldest in your building here right now. That just doesn't sound right. I'd like some verification. I guess to have insurance, we're going to have to go ahead and do this. As long as we know that 6 months up the road, we can maybe make a change. But you're not real sure that we can do that. So I'm not comfortable. I am not comfortable.
That's always been my understanding, that we can change at any time.
That was my understanding also. But once again, we did also to go over plans with them. We will never be able to get this plan back again, is what we're being told. If you want to some short-term savings, get into the network where it's specific doctors at specific hospitals. I don't know if it was Denny or Jeff who researched the plan before. I was told, and Mr. Bomarito even told me, you will never get this plan back.
When I did that study 2 years ago already, we have the best rates going right now. And
That's basically what he said.
And understanding all of that we can never go back to this particular plan again, it doesn't change the fact that it's too expensive for our budget. And so if it has to be brought down to one of the other plans to be able to afford it, then that's something that we may have to look at, or some other type of savings measure. So as long as we can do something different in 6 months or 3 months, I can agree to approve this tonight because it's going to go into effect immediately. It's the next payment we have is going to be the new rate.
Are you talking about you're able to change this program?
Or get out of this program, or change to something else, or reduce it to one of the other ones that are on here, so that we can actually do our due diligence and research and talk about this in our policy manual meeting, which is where we were talking about it before. But we were waiting for the information that we got tonight.
Do we in essence sign a contract or anything like that? Because it's called medical plan options. It's not called a medical plan contract. So contract is one that you would have to, would be like 1 year, 2 years, just like your phone and your TV and stuff like that. So I'm thinking that because it's a plan, you could change. There's nothing saying that we have to be in it for the whole year.
Make a motion that we approve the renewal of the medical plan, Blue Cross Blue Shield, Bomarito Group, Benefits Group, with the stipulation that it is not locking us in for the next year.
Support.
Motion by Clerk Keith, supported by Trustee Boyd. Any other questions? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? One opposed. Motion passes. Thank you, Jeanette. Local community book request. Sure. State your name for the record.
My name is Cindy Zarek with Community Pride Marketing.
Thank you, Cindy. Go ahead.
Yes, I understand that there were some questions about how the community books work, and I was here to answer any questions that you had about that. Now, what we do is we go through your community and we put together a nice comprehensive book that's all about what Lenox Township would represent. And we go to the community leaders to help us write the different areas of, whether it be about the supervisor's office, about how city government works, or township government, your libraries, the fire department, any entertainment, anything that has to do with the schools, churches, senior living. And then we help to compile that information and put it in a book form. We do pictures, and the book is sponsored by the different businesses in your community, which makes it free for the township, and then you can use it as your marketing piece to use for new residents, for community lobbies. We'll also put it in any local doctors, dentists, accountants, professional type buildings, along with your libraries or senior centers, those types of things. So
You handle all that. We don't have to do nothing.
we do. You just sit there and go, yay.
We just give a blessing and that's it.
In order for you to be able to do this book at no cost, and you're going to go around to different places in the community to get donations,
Well, they do sponsorship ads.
Okay,
That's what they do.
with that said, at this point in time, we don't have a whole lot. So what kind of money are you looking for from our community in order to be able to do this?
You know, every book is different. Every community is different. We've done small, where it's been 12 page to 140 pages in a book. So it just depends on the size of the community. There's no limit. There's not a small, there's not a large. It just depends on how big you want the book to be. It goes by how many businesses do sponsor.
So you're not looking for businesses to donate per se, you sell.
They get something
you sell
for,
ads.
right, they put an ad, a sponsorship ad into the book, and so it gives them representation about what they are in Lenox Township, and then in turn, it helps pay for the book. And we also do, which I call tithing, and we do 10% of the profit back to the community. We just ask you to pick some sort of project, or we bought honor guard uniforms before, donated to the Veterans Memorial, Boys and Girls Club. So whatever you feel is a good fit for your community, we'll work that through too.
What's your general, when do you stop collecting and say, we're just not going to get enough money and we give up on it? In other words, if you don't get enough money in 2013, you hold that money and go into 2014?
No,
so you can get more.
no, we generally work on a book for about 6 to 8 months. So that gives us a good indicator, especially in the first few months, if there's going to be good reception towards it. And as I said, you know, it doesn't have to be a large publication. It can be small. I mean, it's a small community, so I imagine that it would be, you know, a smaller publication. So
So that the size of the book actually would depend on the amount of advertisement dollars.
Right. Yeah, well, yeah, aside a number of sponsors.
Do you do a book a year, or is it
Every
one
2
book?
years.
Every 2 years.
We tried to give the sponsors a good shelf life, that their name's going to be out there for a little while.
My concern was, if you, and I'm a little less concerned since I know it's an advertisement, not a donation, but if you get this money from these businesses and they're not happy with the book, they don't like the way it came out, and from looking at it, I don't think that's going to be an issue. But if they weren't, my concern is, if we endorse it, the board, Lenox Township, they come at us. You endorse it.
I've been doing this for close to 12 years. It's never happened.
They're nice looking books. I'm glad to see them.
Right.
That helps. I feel a little bit better seeing that.
Okay, great.
I think one of our biggest concerns last month was the fact that we don't have a lot of commerce. And so we didn't want those that you would contact to feel obligated.
Well, it's just like anything else, you know, there's, it's not for everybody, and some people have a really good community spirit, and they feel that they want to be a part of it because of that. Some people feel they want to get their name out there. You know, there's a ton of different reasons why people advertise. So, yeah, there's no pressure. I used to work for Yellow Pages. That was pressure. So we do it. It's just smooth sailing. If you want to be a part of it, great. If you don't, it's not a problem at all.
We have looked at other marketing pieces too that would cost the township money. This is a marketing piece at no expense to us. I don't see how we can go wrong here. You'd be doing it for businesses around the area, not necessarily just in the township, as close as you can get to us. They want to do it, they do it. If they don't, they don't.
Yeah, if there are some businesses that are on the outskirts that do a lot of business within, like Freedom Hill, they're already in. They said, you know what, people from Lenox come down to Freedom Hill. They said, absolutely, if you do a project there, well, put some advertising in there. So, you know, different things, different types of businesses that support your area as well.
Now, would they include like going into the city of Richmond a little bit and going to Kroger's and little stores, or are you talking just big like Freedom Hill?
Well, it would depend on, you know, if there was somebody, a business that I was working with, and they said, hey, you know, we do a lot of business with so-and-so, they bring a lot of, you know, money into towards Lenox, and maybe you should go see them. You know, I generally go by direction of where I feel that the businesses are going, or if you have some indication that you would like me to go.
What about nonprofits like churches? Do they get in here for free, or do they have to?
We do half off for the churches.
And I see in Waterford, when you have a full page of the fire department, we have our own EMS. Would they pay also?
No.
They want to do
No,
that?
your departments, I mean, whatever the title of that, we'll say chapter is they're the ones that write the chapter, put the pictures on, and the different businesses have the opportunity to pick where they feel is the best fit for them. You know, if it's a doctor's office and he wants to be, you know, senior living, because, you know, he might work with a lot of seniors, then that would be a good choice for him.
What would you say about the nonprofits?
Pardon me?
Nonprofits, they would be able to,
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
full price or half price?
You know, with nonprofits, it depends, because some are nonprofit and some are truly nonprofit, but we work with nonprofits all the time. We would negotiate with them for sure.
I would like to see us try this for the one, you know, for a 2-year period, see how it goes. It's no cost to us.
Well, that would be my last question. In 2 years, do you come back again, or is it just you automatically, once we do this time, every 2 years, you're just going to go do this?
I always come back and check, yeah. It's an agreement, it's not a contract.
And in 2 years, the information inside the book would have to change, so.
Hopefully, there will be more business. businesses.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that's a
More
good
businesses
point.
and
That's a good point with the book. A lot of times people, the different cities and townships will use it as a piece to say, these are the types of businesses that we have here, our population and whatnot, so.
Motion on this, or just give them our blessing? I'll make a motion that we allow, what's the name of your company?
Community Pride Marketing.
Community Pride Marketing to go ahead and make the book, I don't know what you would call it, to go ahead with the process of making the book for next year.
Motion by trustee Boyd, supported by clerk Keith. And just for clarification purposes, just to use our name, correct?
Correct.
Just want authorization to use our name in your book.
Right, the only thing that I would need from you is just a letter stating that you'd give me approval to,
Okay.
because a lot of times businesses are like, what? So we just want them to know that this is something that you're going to be using as your official marketing piece. So,
Okay.
Smooth,
Thank you.
yeah, smooth sailing.
Any other questions? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed?
Opposed.
Motion carries. Thank you, Cindy. You can let Jeanette know exactly what you need to sign, and we'll take care of that. Thank you. New business. Macomb County Sheriff Department contract amendment. Basically, there's just an amendment. Also, too, Mr. Jopik, everything was run by Mr. Jopik for review. And he just points out just a few things for our attention. Mr. Jopik, do you have anything you'd like to add to that?
No, I don't have anything to add, other than to indicate that I did provide a review letter to the board and pointed out a few items, points of interest and areas that as the contract is administered, you want to be aware of.
Thank you, sir.
And I did go through the first contract against this new one, and the only thing that was changed was number 6, and I actually do agree with the change.
Any other questions? Just need a motion to sign the amended contract.
I make a motion that we approve the amended contract for the law enforcement services with the Macomb County Sheriff's Department.
Support.
Motion by Clerk Keith, supported by Treasurer Ottenbacher. Any other discussion? All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion passes. Fire Department fireworks inspection resolution.
A couple weeks back, I sent the board a letter and a copy of a resolution. To synopsize, in 2011, the state of Michigan adopted a new fireworks ordinance that was put into place last year. Well, after lobbying from the State Chiefs Association and the State Inspectors Association, we lobbied to allow local fire inspectors to conduct the fireworks inspections of stands and in permanent buildings. With that, if we are given that authority, 80% of the permit fees come back to the local community. Right now, we get 0 part of the fees. Okay, and a fee on a temporary, I believe, is $400. Okay. In order to do that, to grant that authority to the fire department, the local community government has to adopt a formal resolution that complies with Public Act 256. I sent everyone a copy of that resolution. I took the liberty of typing it together. typing it up, and I've just given Jody the official copy for her and Ron to sign, provided the board passes the resolution. I have to forward this actual resolution to Lansing this week, along with all of my paperwork and my state certifications, and then they'll grant that. They'll review all my certifications in your letter, then they'll grant that authority to me to do local inspections.
And before they changed the fireworks sales law, Denny was the one that was doing the inspections.
Correct.
I did go on one of them with him, and he was thorough, and he looked at everything, and it was good to go, and they were in business.
Yes.
So better that the township gets the funding from those
I have
grants.
a couple questions regarding that. And Chief, maybe help here. Once again, the state right now is doing the inspections, correct?
Correct.
So they take the liability for that inspection.
That's correct.
So what type of revenue do you think, how many of these temporary places do we have within our township boundaries?
Last year we had one.
So we could probably see maybe $320 in revenue.
That's correct.
My only question is, and I contacted our insurance company, for $320 in revenue, why would we want to take on that liability in your time and expense for something that the state already does, that we do not have to be responsible for? We don't have to be responsible for any accidents, injuries, or anything that we could be pulled into and named in litigation.
No, you're mistaken on that.
For $320.
The only time we can be taken into litigation on that is if there's total negligence on the part of the local unit of government or the representative, which would be me. That's the only time that you can be brought into litigation on a fire inspection. That's in the state law. Second off, there is no state fire department, and this is why the state fire chiefs banded together along with the State Fire Inspectors Association. There's no state fire department. We're the ones that will respond to any incident at these.
There are state inspectors taking care of this at this time, is what we're being told.
That's right, and I still have to go out with him to inspect this and receive no revenue.
Okay, why? Let me ask you this, and being pulled into litigation, I'm under the impression that if we're doing these inspections, that's what litigation is for. You get pulled in if something were to happen. Whether you're right or wrong, that does not keep us from being pulled into litigation.
You can be sued for a crack in the sidewalk, Ron.
Exactly.
Okay? But under governmental immunity, the party that is suing the government has to show total negligence on the part of the fire inspector, and the attorney can vouch for this, what I'm saying. So I do monthly inspections all over the township right now on businesses. So
I understand that. I understand that.
This is absolutely no different.
What I'm getting at is this is one of the things that the state handles, just like our liquor enforcement. That is something that, why get involved unless we have to, is my question on the amount of money that we'd be receiving to get involved in the time. It doesn't make sense to me monetarily to do that. And when I talked to the insurance company, that was their answer to me too. Why would you want to be involved in this if the state is taking all the responsibility?
Because it's in the local jurisdiction, Ron. Okay? This is what the locals have fought for years. The last two things that are not part of the local jurisdiction are schools and hospitals. And now we've got fireworks that have, because of this new law, we've got it back to us.
Changed last year, correct?
Right, correctly.
All right, and I understand you fought for it, but it changed last year where the state stepped up and said, we'll take responsibility for this. That's what I'm getting at, is in knowing that, and I know that you're busy, I'm just questioning the amount of money that we would receive versus doing this.
Well, if we get one
$320 to put ourselves out there in a firework situation where there could be accidents or could be liabilities where we could be pulled into.
Again, we can get sued for any inspection I go in. Okay, it's no different. Here now, this hazard is in our community, and we have...
You don't have to do this inspection. That's what one of the ones you don't have to do.
But why not do it? Why not inspect something, some hazard that is in our community that myself and all of 20 of our firefighters are going to potentially respond to? Why not?
Well, you said you do go out on that with the state inspector.
Right, I do.
Why not still do that and let them take the responsibility for it? That's my only question. Make them the responsible party. Still do your inspection with them like you were, so you have knowledge of the site.
Well, I wholeheartedly disagree with you, Ron. The inspection of any facility should be left up to the locals. We're the fire department. There is no state fire agency that's going to respond if there is an incident. So why not know the hazard? And if I'm going there anyway, why not receive the funding?
I understand that. That's my point exactly. You would already have knowledge of the site. You wouldn't be there. You told me you would go out.
Right, so why not take the funding?
Because of liability.
We're going to get 80% of the funding.
Because of liability.
You're totally mistaken on the liability part. You have to prove negligence.
I'd like to ask Steve Jobich for a legal opinion on the difference in liability. If we took on this inspection, would that give us a liability?
Well, in this circumstance, the chief is pointing out that under certain circumstances there could potentially be some liability, and that's the situation where governmental immunity would not apply. There is statutes that apply in terms of granting the township governmental immunity for what's called ordinary negligence, but there are certain exceptions where it doesn't apply in terms of what's called gross negligence, and I think that's what you're speaking to. And it is a fairly high standard on the gross negligence level to get to that level of liability. There are cases where inspectors there have been cases that have been brought against inspectors, building inspectors in particular come to my mind, and in many cases they have been found to have not been liable just by virtue of the fact of being on the property and doing an inspection. But that is not true in every single case. It's very fact dependent on what happens in the case and what the situation involves. Every case is different. So it's really difficult to predict whether there could potentially be some liability, but it would have to be on that very high level of gross negligence. And then the other point that I think was made was that, of course, anybody can sue in any instance, and you have to litigate to get yourself out of that matter. You have to prove that you were not grossly negligent or that the governmental immunity applies. So, of course, the township could be named in lawsuits in connection with matters. So I think if it's okay for me to say, I think it sounds as though this really boils down to a policy question for the township board. Does it want to have some level of involvement in this inspection process, knowing the potential risk that it could be named in a lawsuit? It will probably be able to defend itself and have itself dismissed from that lawsuit in most of the circumstances, the vast majority of the circumstances, but knowing that there is that slight possibility of being involved in a gross negligence situation. And it would have to be gross negligence performed by the inspector from the township, not the state. I don't think in this instance that what the state does could infer or involve any negligence to the township or any liability to the township.
And with this, the state is mandating that every fire inspector that's granted this approval by the local governing board has to attend a special class in February up in Lansing to go through all the same training the state fire inspectors went through just a year ago with all the forms and everything. All the permitting is still going to be done by the state of Michigan, and all the plan reviews are still going to be done by the state of Michigan.
And I just want to clarify, Mr. Jobber, there would be a cost to defend any of these actions, correct?
Yes, there would.
That's my point, Debbie, is for the amount of money that could be taken in, if something happens, we could be looking at, and I know you've been involved in litigation with it, or seen litigation in the township before, how quickly that adds up, how fast that could negate $320 for a serious issue. Even if you're not at fault, even if there is a gross negligence, the cost to defend that claim could be astronomical.
I would rather have our fire chief in charge of the inspections because it's more on a personal level. He cares about the community. He's not going here, there, and every different stand, whereas a state licensing person just comes in, checks, you know, okay, you're fine. I think it's better on a personal level that our fire chief
He
does.
stated he does the inspections now with the state inspector.
But he doesn't have the control of them. He is a standby. The state inspector is the one doing it.
Who takes all responsibilities.
Is this something that the insurance company said that they would not?
The insurance company said, why would you want to do it if the state is taking the responsibility? That's what they're, I put it point blank to them. And it made sense after they explained it to me. Why would you take on that liability for something that's already being handled by the state? With possible issues come, there's a reason they're inspected, because they're hazardous. That issues could arise. So why put yourself in that position if you already get to go on the inspections and see what's out there and know what's going on? Then if you have to respond, you have full knowledge, full disclosure of everything out there, because you're with the inspector, and we're talking about such a little revenue, $320, versus what the cost be to defend ourselves in any type of suit or litigation. That's my only point.
Denny, is this something that you talked to our insurance company about?
No, I did not. Fire inspectors, the state of Michigan fire inspectors, we have attorneys on staff and everything, they have passed this all through. The State Fire Inspector Society has pushed for this for over a year, and we actually went to the legislators, lobbied them, went to the state fire marshal, and that's how the change got made in an amendment to the Public Act.
Penny, if you're doing an inspection with a state inspector and you see an issue, can you tell him, the state inspector, this needs to be fixed, or is it his decision on everything, even if you see a problem?
Currently he has the authority. Last year we had one site, and they were red tagged and shut down before they ever even opened. And they had 72 hours to correct the violations. And the same person that had this stand on Gratiot also had a building in St. Clair Shores that was completely shut down because he was also in violation.
I understand what Ron's saying, that there's only $320 coming in, but this was the first year with this new law. One stand, we could end up with.
You could have multiple because the township has no ordinance against roadside stands whatsoever.
Let's be realistic. If the state inspector has 87 inspections in 3 days, he's going to blast through them.
Yeah.
Not faulting him, but that's the reality. They're busy people. They're not going to spend the time that you.
That's correct.
And that's one of my concerns also.
Well, correct me if I'm wrong too, Steve, it wouldn't be a township ordinance anymore, it's a state ordinance, correct?
As far as?
Sale of fireworks, now in the state of Michigan.
But local jurisdiction can adopt and enforce a policy of no roadside stands whatsoever. You can't limit it to fireworks. If you want to not have any type, fruit stand, corn stands, any type of stands roadside, you can adopt an ordinance that prohibits any roadside sales of any commodities. But you cannot adopt an ordinance, because it would violate state law, of eliminating fireworks stands only. Okay?
That's what I said. Are we going to eliminate all stands in our township? I doubt it. We're going to stop everybody from selling food and corn and everything in our township? I doubt it. So I don't think we'd ever eliminate the fireworks, because you can't.
Because you can't adopt one ordinance to stop just one sale of one commodity.
I have a hard time believing if Denny goes out on an inspection with the state inspector and he sees something wrong, that steps aren't going to be taken.
Oh, he'll still take the steps, but I don't have any enforcement over it.
It's the fact of, if he's got 40 inspections in a day, is he going to be as thorough as Denny would be? And we have no idea how many stands we have next year. I think we need to look at the big picture.
I'd like to make a motion to approve the resolution hereby granting approval and delegation of authority to the Lenox Township
Support.
Motion by trustee Turkey, supported by trustee Boyd. Any other questions or discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? No. Motion passes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Jody has the original. If Ron and Jody could please sign it, and I'll forward that to Lansing this week.
State Fire Inspectors Winter Conference request.
Sent the board a letter on the second annual Winter Fire Inspectors Conference is coming up. It's held February 5th and 6th, and I listed all the costs involved, and we received 11 continuing ed credits just for this one conference alone. I have to receive 20 continuing ed credits every year in order to maintain minimum credits to maintain my certification. So this adds to the credits that I need.
This is no different than the same one that, Cam asked for last week or last month for his continuing credits.
I usually go to this one and the one in the fall. Between those two and the local seminars, we can usually get all our CEs.
Motion to approve for Chief Boucher, to the fire inspectors training February 5th and 6th at a cost of $170 plus $95 for an overnight stay.
Can that include the meals? Because, thank you.
Support.
Motion by trustee Boyd, supported by trustee Turkey. Any other questions, discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you, everybody.
"26 Mile Road Sanitary Sewer Extension and 26 Mile Road Pump Station Ownership Transfer." Mr. Safe, Trombley.
Good evening.
Good evening.
I believe the board looked at the email, came from Cook County, and also I put some comments after discussing that with Cam, and it's basically tells the whole story. So we're here to answer any questions.
You had said in your email that right now, if there were repairs that needed to be made, we would be charged for those anyway.
That is correct. The county is in charge of the operation and maintenance of it. Anytime they go out there, technically they're billing us for that service.
I like the price of a buck.
That's one thing that's taken so long to get it to this point. They approached us roughly 2 years ago and started the process for us to take this over. And that was one of the first things that I mentioned to them, that we would not operate or maintain something that did not belong to us, so they would have to transfer ownership. And there was a big confusion as far as who held the deed of the property. It was kind of an internal battle, if you will, between the road commission and the county as far as who would actually belong to it, who had the deed. To my knowledge, they've located it and have it, and we want to proceed forward with this.
So the transfer will include the property, the building, and the sewer.
Yeah.
They're only keeping the meter and the SCADA. They will own that. They will have access to it and maintain it, because that's their system.
You can what? I didn't.
The meter, the sewer meter, and the SCADA, which is the telemet.
Electronics that actually transmits the readings back and forth.
problem is this, with this put on us. You're talking, we were talking about liability and everything. If we own it now, what if something happens to it? Or what if somebody gets hurt by it?
The property is fenced. I think there are cameras outside.
I don't believe there is cameras, but it is lighted. It is a fenced-in enclosure. It's all secured. The wet well, is locked and secured, as well as the building with the equipment. When this 26 Mile Road sanitary sewer was extended a few years ago, that whole station was rehabbed, new pumps, new generator, all new skated equipment. The county held on to it because it was done, it was all administered through them. Since it was administered through them, all the warranties were in their name. So they've held on to it until these warranties had expired. That's why they want to transfer it now. As far as, we would have to, the alarm system would be basically reprogrammed to call one of us if there was a trouble per se. Whether it was a high wet well, an intrusion problem, a pump failure, we would have to respond instead of the county. Even so, right now, if the county responds, they're billing us for that service. So the only difference, really, I guess, to answer your question is it would call us, we would respond, the direct cost would be on us, which probably would end up being a savings compared to what the county would charge. Anything over and beyond us, our capabilities internally would be just like the county, and a contractor come in to facilitate the repair.
I just asked Steve if he had seen this, and he did not see this agreement. The only thing, I don't have a problem with any of it, I would just feel a little bit more comfortable if someone from there looked over it before we approved it.
It's kind of been a long time for him to get to this point. I'm sure a couple more days for Steve to look it over.
Can I cut to the chase on some of this too?
Sure.
Basically, this is ours whether we want it or not.
The price tag is, yeah.
That's it.
Pretty much.
This is taking place in all the other communities. This is ours. This is our baby. Is it our? Okay, that's what I thought.
Yeah, this facility only services a line in our community, and that's the 26-mile corridor from Flora Park to Fruffer.
And I agree with that. All I'm saying is, I'm not a legal expert, so what is in here, is it saying that's what's in here? And
You have to have Mr. Job look it over.
just have them look it over and we'll look at it next month.
Yeah, plus, like I mentioned, like liability, if we're all up on liability here. If something does go wrong with the sewer system and people get back to, their basements get flooded and everything else like we see in the south end. Back then, homeowners were suing the city. Is that something that would happen to us, or if the county still owned it, would the residents sue? That's something I'd like Steve to take a look at and see what our responsibilities will be then, as far as if something breaks.
More likely, if there was, say, a backup, more likely if it was proven where, again, it was gross negligence on our part, where we would not maintain the station and cause that to happen, then yes, it would be a problem. But that's one of the reasons why, if it's turned over to our control, we would be having to do weekly checks.
But you're going to do a better check,
Sure.
just to make sure we don't have anything.
Right.
wrong.
And that's again, there, two pumps, they alternate. If one does fail, the other one takes over. When that does occur, the alarm system calls whoever's on duty. It's fully programmable that way.
Is this the first one of these stations that we're going to own?
This is the only station we have in our community currently. It's good one way, bad another, with the way Gratiot is set up with the elevation. It works in our favor. This whole 5-mile section is all gravity, but it really hurts on the water, trying to push the water back up there. So 26 mile road being flat on a level plane over there, it needs that pump station. Right now, that's the only one we have. I don't believe we have any other ones currently listed in our master plan. In the near future, unless something special is to be proposed.
So my second question with that is, and Steve can look at it, and then I assume, just to make sure that our insurance specifically covers something like that, and that's a whole new ballgame for us. So our liability insurance actually covers something from our line. If that's our own water line, sewer line, and we've never had to deal with this before, just to make sure we're covered specifically.
My feeling is it would probably fall under the general liabilities of the normal public works operation that we currently have.
It's part of the typical infrastructure. There's nothing special about this station. And we already have 2 PRV stations that are underground. So the liability is there to begin with. So there's nothing that we're adding. It should be covered in the same umbrella. Just to give you guys a little history for the new board members, typically a municipality would create something like this when you need it. But since the county extended that original sewer, the whole system was under the county until this time where they give it back to the community. All of our communities, they built their own infrastructure, including pump stations, and they take ownership immediately.
And I don't think any of us have a problem with us taking ownership. It's just a matter of making sure that the contract is to our best interest.
Oh, definitely.
And I believe the county's requesting a resolution on this too, in addition to the agreement. They mentioned that a couple of times to both of us. So I don't know if this is something Steve would put together or the board would put together.
Well, it looks like they've been asking for this since July, so I think 1 more month.
Yes, I can certainly prepare a resolution providing for the board's approval of this for the next meeting agenda and take a look at the agreement and report back to the board. As far as the insurance coverage, I think they're correct. I think it's generally going to be added to the township's infrastructure that would be joined with all the infrastructure under the township's umbrella of coverage. You know, and to the extent that coverage applies to any particular incident relative to any other water or sewer infrastructure in the township, it would apply here as well. Obviously, I would review the policy to confirm that, but typically that would be the case. It might be wise to notify the insurance carrier of this addition to the township's infrastructure, so at least it's aware of it on its list of assets.
I make a motion that we table the 26 Mile Road Sanitary Sewer Extension ownership transfer until the February meeting in order to have our legal have a chance to look at the contract.
Support.
Motion by Clerk Keith, supported by Treasurer Attenbacher. Any other questions or discussion? All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. LX1 PRV Station Rehabilitation Change Order Number 1. Gentlemen?
Okay. I sent the board a letter of recommendation and supporting documents for this change requested by Consulting Contracting. Apparently, they discovered something that changed material price. There were flanges, there were flanges found in the station that were rated for a higher pressure than normal. And we confirmed it. I think Cam went down with the contractor and confirmed it. Because of this change, they're requesting $10,379. And that's shown in the supporting document. It says all supplier, and it's just a material change, increasing cost to the contractor.
Both you guys say it's legit?
Yeah.
Good.
Fortunately.
Something that was missed on the original
Even if it was shown in the original bid, the price of the bid will reflect this change anyway. We looked at his original quote, and normally they don't give these out, but we requested that to give you guys an idea what we're looking at. So we have their suppliers' numbers, we have their markup, and the labor did not change, it's just the material. So even so, if we had put this in the original bid, they will, the price will reflect this increase anyway.
Just based on material alone.
Just material, yeah.
So this certain material was not in the original bid?
No.
Not in the original paperwork documentation?
No, they were not listed. And in addition to that, they are asking for 10 weeks of extension, contract extension. The current contract was substantially completed in December, but now they're looking somewhere in March to get the material in.
The same material that we're talking about?
Yep.
You need 10 weeks.
10 weeks to.
There's probably quite a bit of
deliver.
lead time on it. That's a normal occurrence. So you're okay with all of it? I make a motion that we approve change order number 1 from Total Contracting for the LX1 PRB.
For a price increase of $10,379.04.
You want me to say the amount of that?
It's okay.
Do I have to put the extension in there too?
Yes, please. Yep, the 10 weeks of time extension.
Extension.
Support.
Motion by Clerk Keith, supported by Trustee Boyd. Any other questions or discussion? All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion passes. Engineering report.
Okay, the board had asked me to put this sheet together. I believe all of you have a copy of it dated December 20th. Basically, list all the design and review and miscellaneous projects for the board to look at every month. So I'm going to continue supplying the board at least 10 days or a week in advance of this updated report. And I believe somebody asked if this should be an agenda item.
I'd like to see this as in between us and the assessing department and the library report, and have it be a part of just the regular.
I have no problem with that.
Thank you, Sir Matt, for putting this together.
No problem. If any board members have any questions about any of these items, I'd be happy to answer or address their concerns. I know Chris and I go through this pretty detailed.
We need a motion, okay. I make a motion that we move the engineering project status from SERMED up to between the assessing department report and the library report that we usually do the receive and file on.
Motion by Treasurer Attenbacher, supported by Clerk Keith. Any other discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Okay, thank you, gentlemen. Board of Review appointments. Order review appointment of 3 members, 1 alternative, 2-year term, 1/1/13 to 12/31/2014. Please note all appointments are required to be sworn in within 10 days of appointment. Following are recommendations for appointment: Thomas Scott Clifford, Reinhold Ron Siemens, David Mary, and alternate Daniel Glaza.
Have all these gentlemen been contacted and asked if they're still interested in this? Dave
Correct.
is right here. Did you say yes?
Correct.
I think they actually had a meeting with Lisa on this.
I'll make a motion that we approve the board of review appointments as submitted.
Support.
Motion by Trustee Churchy, supported by Clerk Key. Any other discussion? All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion passes. Personnel hirings.
We had spoke about this at the policy manual meeting. One was hiring someone to replace Robin when she retires. And the other one was as a receptionist, and the third was that Nicole Ryan, the senior center coordinator, has handed in her resignation. So we actually need to publish 3 different positions. So the question would be, is this one notice in the paper combining all 3 positions? Is it 3 different ones?
Assuming if we do one and do the 3 on there, we probably would get a better, it wouldn't be quite as expensive. But Jody and I had talked about that. Is that going to attract someone that's looking? Putting them all together, is that really going to save us, or should we do 3 separate ones with what we're actually looking for?
Well, the senior coordinator should probably be separate, because if someone starts looking at it as a secretary and there's someone looking to work with seniors, they may not read the whole thing. But as far as, you know, the receptionist, I think you could probably put those 2 together, one full-time, one part-time. That'd be my thought on it.
I'm almost thinking you could keep all 3 together, because if you've looked at the one-ads lately, there's like 3 to 5 or 8. So if somebody is looking for a position, they're going to read them all. So, I mean, I could see how keeping them separate might catch somebody else's eye, but like I said, there's not very many one-ads. So.
Typically, it's per line charge, correct?
So many words
Per line or per word?
per word.
So I don't think you're going to see great savings. Probably separating them if it's not too much difference in cost. Keeping them relatively in the same area would probably be the best bet.
What are you thinking, local, The Voice only, or should we?
I would say Voice and Home Daily.
And the Daily?
If you decide to keep them together, I would put at the top 3 positions available or something of that nature, so they read all the way through. But I don't think there's going to be a big cost difference. I think it'll be a per line charge. It won't really make a difference.
I'd like to stick to one paper, because Macomb Daily would be expensive, especially, you know, when you go to the Macomb Daily, you're putting it in for more than 1 day, as opposed to the Voice, where if you put it in for twice, you're getting it for 2 weeks, as opposed to.
Well, I guess what we could do is last time, where we didn't get a lot of results, we amended it to another date to achieve more applications. So I think based on the amount of applications that come in, you could rerun it again or something if we don't get enough.
And the last position was a highly skilled position that we were looking for, where these are, one's a receptionist, one is someone with bookkeeper training, and then a senior coordinator that, as the ad that was used before, has patience, communication, and organizational skills. So
Now, if you put an ad in, like, do they go to all the voice papers? Well, that covers a pretty good area then.
and it does the online also.
I would just say the voice then.
So in the Bay, the North Macomb, all of those.
Right, yeah, because if you start using Macomb Daily, that goes as far south as 8 Mile and north of here, and it's hard for somebody to, you know, they might come out and interview, but then realize it's so far to come for what we can pay, it's not going to be worth it, so.
Okay, so the other thing would be is the senior center, we need to put in immediately. The receptionist / bookkeeper for the treasurer's office, we need it, but it can wait a little while because Karen really needs to be the one to write the requirements for that. And so that would be the only thing of putting them separate.
So I'd say do it like that then, because the senior coordinator, you're going to need to get someone in here and interview and train them and get them used to it, so that is an immediate need.
Yeah, while you're convalescing.
We'll have lunch and we'll write the ad, okay? But I do agree, we need to get Nicole's position covered as soon as possible, so. We'll do those, do the two together and Nicole separately. I'll make the motion, most of it's for me, that we go ahead and we put in all of the Voice, Bay, North Macomb, all of the Voice newspapers immediately for the senior coordinator position that's available as soon as possible. Do we want that run twice also? The senior coordinator, we want to run twice?
What we did last time.
Might run it once, wait, see what we get, and then if we have to run it again, run
And
it.
then by that time, we'll be ready to run the others, and if we need to, we can add it to that, to the other two. But the other two for the receptionist position and the bookkeeping help for me and my assistant, I would like definitely ran 2 weeks in a row.
And we can probably talk about that at next month's meeting, because that'll give you time to write it.
Get your motion.
That's my motion.
Support.
Motion by Treasurer Ottenbacher, supported by Clerk Keith. Other question or discussion? All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion passes. Annual meeting removal from calendar.
Just an FYI, we're probably looking at the 23rd. Maybe it could be in the 16th paper. The ad for the senior center.
This is in regards to removal of our annual meeting that would be held Saturday, June 15, 2013 at 10 a.m. In attending the MTA conference, was informed that this was a thing of the past to have annual meetings, that most annual meeting business is done during the normal Board of Trustees meeting. Spoke to Steve Jopic regarding it. And you want to give your opinion on that, Steve, real quick?
Yes, I've provided a written legal opinion to all board members concerning this matter. I did review the matter and confirm that Supervisor Trombley was correct in what he heard at the MTA, that it's no longer a requirement unless there has been some determination by the electors that they wish to have an annual meeting or a resolution adopted by the Township Board. I did not go through the process of researching whether either of those events have occurred in the township, but I understand that they have not. And in that case, there is no requirement to hold an annual meeting under the Township Act.
So basically, by motion, we can have it removed.
Yeah, I have suggested that there's no real guidance in law as to what you need to do to stop having them. It just indicates that you don't need to have the meetings. But I have suggested, in my opinion, to the board that it take an action so that the public is on notice that there will no longer be an annual meeting held by the township.
Thank you, Attorney General.
You're welcome.
With that said, at one of our regular meetings, could we make it mandatory that there was a public notice put in the paper? The only two things that normally were big for the annual meeting were this board's salary, which I don't feel comfortable voting on that, because that's up to the people I represent. And the other is, we always talked if there was property to be bought, township buying the property. I would still like that to be where residents are fully aware that that's on the agenda. Does that make sense?
That was, well, we did have session regarding property purchases, that they can be done at any time by the board.
I understand that. That's not what I said. I understand it can be done in a regular meeting. My question is, can we, by resolution, make it mandatory that the board has a public hearing where it's published in the paper that the township is looking at A, salaries of this board, or B, purchasing property?
Typically, I have a question for Attorney General. Is that typically public notice for purchases of property? And my only concern would be there if something has to be purchased by another entity for us, or disclosure of something we're going after to purchase. That could increase value on us purchasing it.
Yeah, there are two different questions here. One is on salaries and one is on the purchase of property. On the salary issue, I think it would be within the board's discretion if it would like to hold a public hearing concerning the establishment of board salaries. It certainly would have the discretion to do so. I'm not aware off the top of my head of a requirement to hold a public hearing, but it would be an option that the township board can impose upon itself if it would like to. And in that regard, I'd suggest that you specify the amount of time before the meeting and how it's to be published so that there's some clear indication of what the administration needs to do in terms of getting that and properly noticing it. As far as the purchase of property, you can do the same with respect to purchase of property. The supervisor is correct. There oftentimes with regard to the purchase of property, there can be concerns with if you're involved in negotiations for the purchase of property, as you're going through those negotiations, the individual that you're dealing with could use the township as leverage to gain an increased purchase price from somebody else, or to increase the purchase price from the township. Oftentimes, government is considered as having deep pockets. We all know better in these difficult budgetary times, but there's a perception out there that could exist, and it could artificially inflate property values. And for that reason, there's actually an exception in the Open Meetings Act to actually hold a closed session regarding the acquisition of property prior to entering into the agreement for the purchase of property. That's exactly why that exception is in the Open Meetings Act, to protect against artificially inflated prices of property. So I think that's a valid consideration for the board. The final decision in all events does have to be made in an open meeting. So I guess I've gone a long way around to saying, if you're at the point where you are going to approve the purchase of the property and entering in the agreement, you have to do that at a public meeting. And if you want to impose and add on to that the requirement for a public hearing before the township approves it, or at the time that the township board is considering approval, that would be in your discretion as well. You may want to leave some flexibility in terms of the timing for noticing that public hearing, because there may be time pressures in connection.
Absolutely, that would be one of my concerns.
So you may, with regard to that motion, I'd suggest again having a very minimal notification period for any publication if you
I
decide.
would not like to see any notification of the property, like Attorney Johnson said, we can handle it in closed session if we have to, but the final decision would be made in the public anyhow.
I know there was a few years back, the question, it wasn't a specific piece of property, it was to the electors. Do you give this board the authority to purchase property for such and such a reason? It wasn't saying, you know, do this piece of property for this amount of money, where I can see you wouldn't want that in a public hearing because it would be detrimental to the sale or the buy or whatever. I would just like to be above board.
I guess my question is, why do we not want to do the annual meeting? What's the reason for not doing it? Long before I was on the board, I know I'm kind of weird in this way, but I actually enjoyed coming to the annual meeting. And I've learned a lot there, and it's a good spot to really open up and let those sitting up here that are at that time audience understand, really let people know how you feel. Which I understand you can do that at a regular meeting too, but it's also a different time of day. It's a Saturday, people that can't make it. I work afternoons, a lot of times I couldn't make it. We do it on the Saturday morning, more people are likely to be here. I don't understand why we want to stop doing the annual meeting.
I've been here, next month it'll be 25 years. We've always had an annual meeting. When you go to the convention, you talk to a lot of other people. I'm finding the real rural communities still like to have that annual meeting. The larger communities have gone, and basically they've gone to not having and doing it the way Steve and Jody are talking about. It makes no difference to me. It does, a lot of times it has tied up my Saturday because I'm out there instead of being up here. Ron and Jody would be the two that would mandate. And basically what Ron does is tell the state of township what's gone on in the past year and what we've tried to accomplish in the past year. And then, like we said, if there is property to be purchased or something's out there like that, or again, the wages. And Jody, I believe we have to post those, what,
30 days in advance.
30 days in advance. But I, too, like I do not feel comfortable. It's like you're trying to do something you shouldn't be doing if you don't have it out there posted, and the people, we've never been turned down for a raise. In the past 7 years, we have just stayed status quo the way we are. We haven't asked for a raise. And the people out there cannot take anything away from us. They can tell us we want to have more, but that isn't going to happen in this, economy right now. I think it's just the small communities like to do it and like to have it there, and the larger communities just don't. So it doesn't matter to me one way or another. But that's the way it's always been since I've been here 25 years. We've always had an annual meeting in June.
What brought this discussion up was the MTA. Basically one of the training classes, and I think Mary Beth attended that class with me, if I'm not mistaken, and it was information given that this type of business can be done at a regular board meeting with no change.
And I agree with that. Nobody's saying
They actually said that at the training.
that it can't. It can. I make a motion that we remove the annual meeting from our calendar of meetings with the stipulation that board compensation is preceded by a public hearing. Support.
Motion by Clerk Heath, supported by Treasurer Attenbacher. Other questions or discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. schedule policy manual workshop.
Karen, Wednesdays were best for you, right?
Correct.
Fourth week is going to be shot,
What?
and the fifth week is the, prior to the next meeting.
23rd is when we're in Detroit at the convention. So, make the 16th.
I know
I'm working, but I can try to get it off. If I can't be here, I can't be here.
15th,
16
16th.
is a Wednesday.
How are you on the 30th?
30th was a day for the first training session, but that's, I don't know, yeah.
30th is better for me.
Fine for me. Would that work for you, Chris?
I don't have my schedule in front of me, unfortunately. But again, I can try and be here. I don't know if I'm off or not. I don't know. But go ahead and schedule it. I'll do my best.
The 30th works for everybody? What time?
6, and I can usually get here by 6, so that works for you guys. That works for me.
Make a motion that we schedule the next policy manual meeting on January 30th at 6 o'clock.
Support.
This is a workshop.
Motion by Clerk Key, supported by Treasurer Adbacher. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Healthcare policy for new hires, as we discussed before in the workshop pertaining to new hire only. For coverage for a single person and not a family.
Jody, do you know if we go this route, you know, and we have a new hire and that person takes insurance, can they get their family insured through the program and just pay for it? Okay, so they could be insured, they just aren't paid for it by the time, okay.
So I guess the only question would be, Ron just said something about paying for it in full, and I know at the policy manual meeting it was paying it 28. Single person only.
A lot of faces looking at us that they haven't a clue what we're talking about. Does someone want to run this by people? And I'm the wrong one to talk about it, so.
Well, we're going over the health insurance from all different angles. And some of the discussions we had at our policy manual meeting to put in our policy manual is instead of offering health insurance to a new hire and their whole family could be insured, it would be just the person that works here. And they would pay 20%, and the township would pay 80%. If they want their family insured, then that would be out of their pocket, not out of the township. Is that kind of covered?
Right now, if you're an employee here, you can have your family covered. You and the employee and the family is covered. The township is paying 80% of that Blue Cross premium. The employee is paying 20%. Now that's kind of across the board in most places, and they're doing things all over the place. Every day you turn the TV on, you hear different scenarios. What I would like to see And I'm not saying we're gonna change what is there right now. I think that was a misconception of what we were trying to do. Those that have the insurance now and their families are covered, we will continue to do so. I would like to see in the future, any new people that come in, I still would like to see them pay the 80-20. And if they want their family covered, they would have to be responsible for their family. Now, those of us that don't take the insurance, my husband worked for Ford's, I don't need it. We get a small stipend every month that doesn't come to anywhere near what the ones that are getting the insurance are getting. I'm not asking for that to be changed. I'm just asking that here on in, any new people come in, we would cover you 80-20 like we've been doing, and if you want your family covered, I say you pay for it.
Is that a motion?
Yeah, just wording has to be worked out in the manual.
She said the wording has to be changed a little bit from the manual. I just, as treasurer here, I see people come in that are trying to pay their taxes and trying to decide whether they can go from here after they'll throw their money at me thinking that I'm keeping all of this money from them, and they can't buy groceries for their family, or they don't have insurance for their own family, and we are covering, as a taxpayer, we are covering these people's. I don't think it's right. Something has to be done. It has to be cut back. When times were good, we put this in place. I think technically right now, this board could say, we don't need this insurance anymore. A lot of places are doing that. A lot of places are saying, we're cutting back totally. If you want the insurance, you pay for it. So I would like to make that motion that I say anybody new hires, we pay 80%. They pay 20. If they want their family covered, they pay the whole. And right now, I'm not sure if people understand too, there are a few that get the eyes and the dentist. They pay that on their own. We don't, the township does not give them anything towards it. They're just getting the benefit of us having that policy.
So, motion by Treasurer Otbacher, supported by Trustee Boyd. Any other discussion or questions? All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion passes. Township Park Rehab. Gentlemen.
Well, they're getting up to the podium. This reminds me of, at the planning commission level, it was brought up that Chuck, there was a Chuck attended that you attended the thing about recreation, and they recommended that we start putting together a recreation board again to start researching what we need to do in the township. After these guys present, maybe Chuck will bring it up. They just have to ring a bell. I thought we were going to talk about it at this. Sorry.
Sure, if you'd like to speak to that, you have to let us speak to that. Gentlemen.
If we could, the next two items kind of work together. Kind of like to discuss both of them at the same time if we could.
Go ahead.
The two items I'm referring to is the
park rehab and concession.
Correct.
Okay.
The first item would be the park rehab, which refers to the park path. And then the next item would be the park concession / storage building. The reason I like to lump them together is it really doesn't make sense to redo the path if we're going to do the building and have to travel that new path. We talked about these items the last couple of years during budget workshops. We weren't able to do anything the previous year. This year we did put some allowances in there to accommodate this work. Given the time of year, construction season is going to be here before we know it. We would like to start the process of the engineering process for these projects if we could. the park path, it's the original path that was put in 2000. It's, in some areas, it's failing detrimentally. And it's starting to cause a safety hazard, is correct. The township park concession and storage building mainly would be for the permanent restrooms. That way we'd be able to get away from having the porta johns and the monthly costs associated with that. As far as exactly what size building, style, placement, I think that would be all be determined during the engineering of the project. So what we're actually asking for is to just move forward with the concepts and the engineering of these two projects.
Okay, so with that said though, then where is the conception for the concession and storage coming from?
Where do you mean the kids?
Yeah, I didn't understand.
Who's going to decide how big this building is, what it consists of, what it doesn't consist of?
That's going to be part of the engineering as far as what is actually needed for the area we have out there.
I think is what you're saying would be a recommendation by survey.
Correct.
I mean, we're going to work with the departments, especially DPW and the board, if they would like to appoint somebody or two people to work with us. Basically, we're looking at like a concession and storage and like 2 bathrooms type of configuration for the building. And I think back a few years ago, we were looking at a 20 by 20 building size. But that could change, depends on what the township wants.
Maybe we do need to back up here a little bit and maybe let Chuck discuss what he learned, because we may want to put a committee together again, recreational committee. They can decide, and because that's the way we did it last time. We had a lot of different people from all walks of life and all ages and different age kids and everything, and decided what should be out there. I mean, we did surveys and everything else, and that committee could come up with and say, well, we think we need a concession stand, we think we need this many bathrooms. Now have the engineer look at it and design something.
Just to say, I think the last Parks and Rec committee, there was 2 to 3 people that showed up. You were one, and I was one, and one other person that couldn't stay very long and left.
When is this?
Well, actually, 4 years ago, 5 years ago.
I think that was separate. I think that was,
It was a Park and Rec committee.
it wasn't. I think we set up something different.
Oh, yeah, we
That
had,
was a one meeting thing.
there was about
That
10
never-
or 12 of us, and we helped design this park, and
That was a one
we
meeting
did
thing.
a lot of work.
That was many years ago if it was for the.
Right, and that's what maybe we need to start now. And if it's okay, I would like to have Chuck step forward and explain what he learned, and maybe we're getting the cart.
Mr. Strunners, would you like to step forward?
Well, I guess we're not progressing properly information by 5 o'clock. 2 weeks ago, I attended a meeting with the planner of Macomb County, Mr. John Paul, who represents Macomb County planners, and he invited all the surrounding communities, Washington, Ray, New Haven was actually there. Macomb County has not had a Parks and Rec department for approximately 10 years now. They're planning on putting one together, and they wanted input. Well, I also showed them and told them that we already started a portion of that because of the Wetzel State Park plan that we did with the Michigan State DNR. We do have a nice creek that runs through this community that could nurture be developed into a kayak facility for a stream. That's one of the major things that everybody's looking at, kayaks. They're looking at the Lake St. Clair view. Well, we don't have that Lake St. Clair. But they're looking for committees to get together. Romeo and Washington both sent 3 people, delegations from their committee. And they're looking for recreation committees to be formed. There's going to be money coming from the federal government. There's money coming from the state of Michigan. But if you don't have these committees, they're not going to give it to you. And if you don't have these plans on the books, they're not going to give it to you. We already have a recreational plan, a trail plan, and everything in our community. We should be up there looking every time there's an opportunity, because we're already on that list. We've worked with the state on this stuff already. That always gets us an extra point when you're looking at stuff for grants. And that was just the first informational meeting that I went to, and there will be more, but it behooves us to appoint a new committee, get the recreational thing started, so when we do go for grants, we show that it's there. It can't be just 3 people. It has to be a half dozen anyway. You know, so that's what I've learned, and I'm still going through these things every time that there is one. There was no schedule when the next one was going to be, but there it is. So work with it.
John Paul, is that his name?
John Paul, yeah.
Yeah. He comes to the agricultural, the PDR program that I'm involved with, Ray Township. And they were discussing it at the last meeting that I was at, and there was, well, as you know, we've added Washington Township now to that committee. And they are trying to get involved in not just the PDR committee, they're trying to get involved, as Chuck said, in all of these different things. But they did stress there that we need to get committees set up. We need to get people that want to work with this. And we had a good start years ago on it, so I think that would be very much
we have a full, like a binder that shows the recreation.
And they do have a copy of it.
Future, you have, yeah.
They do have it.
Yeah.
I understand what you're talking about. I've been to numerous meetings regarding that also. This one basically, this agenda item though, basically is the concession stand in the park.
Correct, and that's not what I was speaking.
Right.
But I'm just saying,
But they put the grant money for it, that's the other thing.
The grant money, Chuck, would that cover also maintenance?
Could cover, I don't know what it could cover, I'm not in the grant, but they said, there was just a DNR grant for trees, which we didn't pay for. DTE just had a big one, which just bought trees too, so that was only missed out on.
That's good. We just, we put this at this time, at the agenda, because we didn't want to miss the construction season for this year. We could still...
I think it's very important that this start at this time, or we will miss the whole season, in my opinion on this. Is that correct?
Yeah, it's going to be tight. But if the board would like to form a committee, we could still work hand in hand.
Well, what about starting on the path right away, because that's a hazard. There's really no reason to not do that, but as far as we may be able to get grant money to help with the concession stand and build that so it's useful to the park, put them together with the committee. But I agree we need to do something with the path. I've walked it many times, me and the wife, and there are some pretty bad spots out there. I don't think that's something we should wait on. But the concession stand, that might be something worth waiting on to see if we can get some grant money.
The only thing is, we could do it that way, if the board pleases, but we could risk damaging the path and fixing it when we put the concession stand.
We cause ourselves additional cost because of the damage that would be done to the work.
Do we know where the concession stand is going to be?
Well, there's probably 2 different locations that would fit it the best.
I'm going to show a conceptual that was passed around a few years ago.
I can tell you that one of the #1 complaints in our park is restrooms.
I don't doubt that at all. My concern is, I think that's what Ken was getting at, is the grant money, the possibility of really adding to that facility.
yeah, and I understand people want the restrooms and everything, but look at Richmond High School. Just now, they're building a concession stand and restrooms. How many years have fans used porta potties there? So it's not something we have to rush into.
And the other thing that I was thinking about the other day is, how far do you go with this? Is it going to be closed down in the wintertime, or are we going to winterize it and so that it's not used, so then we still have to get the outhouses, or is it going to have heat all winter long? Are we at the point that we need a full-fledged concession stand because we're not going to man it when the park is being used, because we're not at that point yet? So, and the
We don't
concession
have
stand,
the money to do it.
Well, in the the concept of the concession stand doesn't necessarily mean it has to be put into use.
No, I'm just saying, I'm just asking
Oh, okay.
devil's advocate. Here's a bunch of questions.
Sure.
And the biggest one would be, is it going to be closed in the wintertime and winterized so that it's not being used anyway?
I would think it'd probably be in our best interest.
Okay, so too many questions, not enough answers.
Yeah. I
In
mean, a lot of the communities that do have permanent restrooms in a setting like this, shut them completely down in the winter time and winterize them. That I'm aware of. Because then if you don't, you end up heating them and everything else. You have somebody that has to open and close them. It's not for maybe one person every 3 days, once a week maybe. It's just not. The use isn't there.
Who's going to clean it?
Right.
One of the worst things for our path are the porta johns. The trucks have to go back to service them. They have a lot of weight. They end up tearing up the path.
So weight and width.
Exactly it.
Is $50,000 enough to build a concession stand? Because that's, I mean, we're looking at that's what we have.
I think eventually, this is what we're getting at. He wants to proceed with the engineering. We're going to need that regardless of what happens here. So why not get that out of the way and look what we're looking at? And if we don't do this year, fine. We have to do it next year.
And saying that, why don't we wait till we have a committee? If we're going to wait anyways, potentially, let's wait till we have a committee so some people can be in there putting their input in with cement on what we want with that. I'm not saying the path. We definitely need to do something with the path. And I understand we fix the path and then start that construction. It might be detrimental to it. Give and take a little bit. Unfortunately, that may happen, but I just hate to, this is here today, and let's just say go ahead with it. Why not spend a little bit of time and make sure we're building something that's perfect and what we want is going to last. I think it'd be jumping into it too quick. Again, the path, absolutely. Concession stand.
Well, I don't think it's too quick because we've been talking about this for better than 5 years. As far as, detrimental, yeah, I just hate putting something in or fixing something and then tearing it up again.
Where are we and where are you at?
As far as
where the path is in bad shape, needs to be fixed. Where is that relevant to where you think we may have to put this concession stand? Is it anywhere near it? I mean, can we go ahead and fix the bad spots that needs to be fixed so someone isn't hurt?
Whole path
That needs to be done first.
The problem is there's multiple areas that need to be, so to go out there and just patch it, I couldn't even imagine what that would, you'd be better off doing a total replacement.
And I don't think that's what she's saying either. According to this one, it's a very small portion of the path that would be in the way.
Right, but then the trucks that are still servicing the porta johns are still having to use the path to get around to it.
Just put the porta johns exactly where the concession stand could be going, instead of having them all over the place.
We can do that if you want to put them all in one spot.
But get the majority of the track taken care of this year, get it up to where it should be.
To answer Chris's question, that number just was budgeted.
Right, no, I understand that.
Yeah, we don't have any detail on that, and what type of building, or what type of finish, and how big. We just put a number just for budgeted purposes, so you guys can look at it.
I could see a committee if we were doing a building. We basically know we need a men's and a women's restroom and what size structure attached to it. So that's what I think our engineer would be best served to provide us is those dimensions. If we want to, as a board, pick the exterior or something of that nature, fine, but it is what it is. It's a restroom. I don't know what your thoughts are going to give, Mr.
It's a storage, it's possibly machine selling pop and candy, or it could be a lot of things. That's
whatever you put in it.
Right. So I think we kind of need to decide all that before we.
So there are a few options. We have two projects we're talking. The pathway, I think the
park is maturing, I mean, erosion, whatnot, you know, there's some areas in the swaling and the drainage of the park that basically needs to be re-ditched, re-sloped. We have numerous areas that hold water constantly, from that.
Yeah, especially on the north area right here. So that one part is the pathway and the drainage, and then the second part would be the concession building. We're just going to call it. If the board would like to tackle both, we would like a motion to approve both to go ahead. If the board would like to separate them, and then
What's your recommendation?
to cut a cost, we want to lump everything together on one project. That doesn't mean that we cannot form a committee to work on the concession building. We could do that hand in hand. But again, it's up to the board what they want to do. You can separate them. You can form the committee and just keep going at it.
As far as concepts or what's, you know, what it is, I mean, it's not like it's just going to be minus or events.
Right.
You know, this is what it is. No, I mean, we welcome everybody's input on the project. I mean, the park is for the people.
Well, what if we do this, and I'll make it a form of motion, that we go ahead and approve the starting of the rehab for the path, ditches, and culvert, and then we form a committee and help with the planning of the concession stand and storage building, and let's hope that we can make it all happen at once. But if we keep them separate, that way if we don't quite have the building ready to go, and then we're still moving on with the path. Actually, let me withdraw that. I'm going to make it two separate, and we'll hope for the best. I make a motion that we go ahead and start the rehab for the path, ditches, and culvert. And then I'll hit the concession stand after that.
Support. Motion by trustee Boyd, supported by trustee Turchi. Any other questions or discussion? All those in favor? Aye. Opposed?
I'd like to make a motion that we start the concept of the concession stand and storage building with the hope that we can make it all happen together.
Would you like to add forming a committee?
And form a committee to do that.
Do you recommend anybody, or is?
I would be thrilled to be a part of it. Absolutely.
Are you authorizing him to do engineering work on it?
Well, the committee will make a recommendation
Form a
back to the
committee,
board.
yes.
So Chris.
Well, I want to make sure that you're authorized, sir, man.
I'll be working with the committee. And that'll be Chris, Chuck, and Cam, and myself.
Let's do it.
There may be other people, once they hear that are interested, you know, put something on the website, you know, recreation committee forming, anyone interested.
I can meet with you
Contact the
Wednesday,
township.
and we can start the process. I would love to be involved with it.
So we put it out there that basically we're going to start meeting every Wednesdays to start working towards this goal.
Absolutely.
Which is Surratt's normal day.
And it truly is my hope that we can make it all happen at once. And I think that should absolutely be a goal, to get them both out there at the same time.
Chuck, would that work with your schedule?
That's on. Yeah, we should have put a plan though.
Do you want to make your motion one more time, please?
I make a motion to start the process, meeting this Wednesday, form a committee to get going on the concession stand and storage building design.
Support. Motion by trustee Boyd, supported by treasurer Rattenbacher. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries.
Do we have a motion? Do we need a motion for a committee? Chuck?
They've already said, do I have to form a committee, that's it.
Yeah, we're going to form a committee, that's part of it.
Thank you.
Are you going to be in charge of the committee, Smith?
No. No, thank you.
We'll work hand in hand.
We have a board member right here. And any so that Kent will be there, but I'm sure Chris will take the reins.
I'll be honored, but I respectfully decline.
Okay, thank you. uniform request?
A couple months ago, I was asked to look into prices for uniforms for Public Works. I did contact all the local communities in our area. On the second sheet, you can see it's a simple spreadsheet shows what they are providing to their employees currently. On the front page, I contacted a local shop that can supply us with the garments that would be necessary. List each garment out per unit, and then I gave my recommendation as to what would be, I guess, required per year per person.
Yeah, just go over your recommendation real quick, yeah.
Basically, Carhartt denim pants, 4 pair per year per man. Carhartt Henley tees, 4 per year per man. 1 heavy work shirt, which is like a sweatshirt, 1 light work jacket. Each of those will be 1 per man per year. Carhartt cold weather gear and bibs as needed, and then $100 per man per year for boots and safety shoes. Total of the items that I just listed, with all shirts and jackets being in, with the township logo, would come to a cost of $1,076. That would be for 2 people per year. When I did contact 2 different uniform companies, Domestic and Cintas, both companies had a 36-month commitment, minimum charge at least $35 per week, which would cost $1,820 per year. So if we were to buy these garments in-house as I listed, we would need roughly $700-800 less than what it would be to go with a laundering service.
Your price doesn't include the cars, though, correct?
No, no, because that would be as needed. And currently, you know, the set I have, I believe, I purchased 5-6 years ago.
That was going to be my next question.
Still fine. There's nothing wrong with it. And Wesley got a nice Christmas present, so he is all set. But I kind of went off these numbers by my own experience. I go through more than 4 pairs of pants a year. I go through more than 4 shirts a year, especially because of change of seasons. But this is realistic for a start. I know we've talked about this numerous times over the years at different points. If the township is considering, as indicated, if we could just make an automatic thing to continue this forward would be helpful.
Well, my personal feelings, I'll start right towards the top there, the t-shirts. If we're going to require you guys to, or ask you guys to have those, I absolutely think we should pay for them. I don't have any problems with the shirts. Safety issues, I worked construction 16 years, and you guys are out in this cold and in ditches and in water and doing everything else. I have no problem with the jacket and Carhartt bibs. The boots, I do have a concern with that. Number one is $150, is $100 enough? Because boots, I know, are expensive, and they can save toes.
Again, myself, I spend between $150 and $175 on my boots. Looking at the spreadsheet that I attached, I felt the $100 was in line compared to what everybody else was doing.
And the other part of that is, I'm almost thinking that should be as needed too.
I'm sorry?
I'm almost thinking the boots should be as needed too. And I know right now I'm adding a little bit of cost.
Mm-hmm.
I'm looking at it as a safety issue because you never know what the weather's going to do to them boots. So that part's got me a little nervous. And I'm thinking of you guys working out there. If you feel $100 is enough, then I'm okay with that. I got to be honest, the one that I'm iffy on is the pants. I don't know how the rest of the board feels on it. That's really the only one I'm kind of uncomfortable with. because it's $256 for them. And I don't know, was everybody buying those? Pretty much everybody.
If you go,
Some of them
I
are
mean, there's various different brands that you can go with. My personal experience, I get the best wear out of these. They more or less fade out to the point where I don't like wearing them before they give out. And the price that she's giving me on them is actually a very good price. Very seldom do I even find them on sale for that cost.
I guess the question on the pants would be, is it necessarily something that the township needs to provide, as opposed to that being something that the employer provides themselves? That's all my thoughts on what has been said. And then with the boots, I know you're not going to get a pair of boots for $100. I bought those boots before. And you're talking a lot more than that. And a better pair of boots, you're going to get more than 1 year out of them. I'm not saying they're going to go 2 years, but as Chris said something about as needed as opposed to...
Right.
Could be less than a year.
And you'd have the better boot.
I just think this is his recommendation. He kind of knows what he needs for the year. His costs are under what I see as the average. And if this doesn't work in a year, he can revisit it with us.
Well, I'm looking at this as like a starting point. Like, we could, say, okay, $100 towards boots. We don't have to include every item this first year. It's like a benefit almost.
Well, see,
So
that's the
we
thing.
can gradually work into it, or we could lump sum it right now and then see how it goes. I mean, different options to look at. So,
If the township purchases it and the check comes from the township to, let's say, L&O, then we're okay.
Yeah, I do like that idea because then there's no out-of-pocket expense for these guys. I like
But
that
if
part.
we just say, go buy your boots, then it has to go into their pay, which means they're then taxed on it. So if you say $100 towards a pair of boots and they spend $250 and we give them the $100, it's going to become part of their pay.
it can't be partially reimbursed or reimbursed. I don't know.
Yeah, I'm just, throwing
How we used
something.
to submit the vouchers before with the amounts on it, but that won't, because it's not a full payment.
Like unfortunately, where I buy my boots, we don't have an account. There's a possibility we could be able to set up an account there. But yes, that's what I would think. If I was to purchase those boots, turn that in, it would be nothing more than a reimbursement up to whatever you guys allowed.
And you say you'd like it to be an allowance. You'd almost prefer that we say, you get this much money, and you guys are responsible for
We would
making
know
sure
that
you have-
every year that this is what our clothing allowance or our uniforms for the year would be.
And are you feeling that you're required to buy these things every year? Or you can go ahead, because I know when I worked for EMS, if we had a little bit of money left in our fund, personal funds for uniforms at the end of the year, I know a couple people bought thermal socks, things that weren't necessarily on the list.
Well,
And I'd like for you guys to be able to do that too.
I look at it as the pants. We're gonna need the pants every time. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about that. The shirts, you might get a couple that you might be able to get more than a year out of. So that you might not need 4 shirts. You might be able to get 2 shirts and then maybe another sweatshirt. My goal is to, if each man's, I'm just going to cut this in half, say each man has $500 in clothing allowance per year. You got $500 to spend on these predetermined items to make this look uniform.
I think that was really trying to avoid though. Right, so, not giving them $500 and say, okay, go buy your clothes.
Well, if you go through now, you can set up an account there. Or, you know, when you go to order the stuff, they can say, when you come back to pick it up, you need this much money, Jody can cut a check. And you can take that check.
Sure, yeah, and that's fine for the garment stuff. It just runs into a little bit of problem with, like I said, the boots. You know, she can even handle, that particular place, she can even handle the car stuff. But on the same token, sometimes you can find better pricing in other places. So you might end up.
This is local, if there's a
Yeah,
problem, it's right down the street.
I always try to keep everything as close as possible for that reason.
I'll make a motion to approve the DPW's request for uniform allowance of, all right, we'll do the math real quick, because we want to do it as an individual. Is it 1,070? It's not 1,076 per person.
No, that was
It's for two people.
Right.
I want to do it individually, because who knows, next year you might have three people.
That's my thoughts too. We're opening something up here that next year they would have 2 more people on that staff.
Well, there's the other question.
Whatever we're setting in precedence here is going to be followed through.
Okay, and you know what, that's a really good part-time people. We don't want to give them the same amount of clothes.
No, the only thing no, we've never offered uniforms to part-time seasonal help. The only thing that I would like to do in the future for part-time seasonal help is maybe a couple simple shirts, something that's inexpensive, that makes them recognizable when they are here working, and we know who they are.
538 per individual.
What else would we have a problem with this room? What are your thoughts?
Well, I'm playing Jody's devil's advocate here tonight with everything that I'm doing because, again, we're in the situation we're in with our insurance because times were good and we wanted to be good to our people. I don't want this to come back to bite us later on if we have a great big huge amount of people down there working and we're expected to. No one buys my clothes for me. No one buys my deputy's clothes. We have never, ever gotten into that. So I am not really in favor of this. So I'm the wrong person to ask.
Well, I don't disagree. I'm in favor of giving this stuff the cost. I understand what you're saying. And I look at it as more of a safety issue, especially with the Carhartts and the boots working in the cold.
There wasn't one department, you know, and you can see all the departments in areas that I listed here. Everybody provides their employees with these garments, with these uniforms. You know, it's not that we're asking for something that's out of the norm.
This is something that we, instead of making this an automatic, every year this happens, just approve it, approve the purchase as it is, and let's see where we're at in a year.
Good idea.
And the other thing would be these clothes, especially the Carhartts, not so much the boots and the pants and the shirts, are property of the DPW. So in other words, if Wes leaves, the Carhartts, especially if they're brand new, stay. They are the property of the DPW. I think that's important too. Because I know when I left the elevator trade, I had a closet full of uniforms that I kept. So we want to make sure that they stay, because that's a cost that we can absorb.
I'm sure we bought for an employee that is no longer with us, and he's probably wearing them these next couple of days. So I'm, great. It stays here. It stays in the township if we're going to supply them.
I'll make a motion that we approve the $1,076 for the 2 current employees for uniforms as recommended by the DPW superintendent is a one-year, one-time deal. And that the uniforms remain the property of the DPW.
Motion by trustee Boyd, supported by clerk Keith. Any other discussion? All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion passes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Quality sometimes.
Sidewalk to sheriff substation entrance door request. Received a letter from Captain John Roberts that they would support the installation of a sidewalk in the parking lot to the door entrance of the substation place provided by the township. This would be a safety improvement for those walking from the lot into the building. Less chance of slip and fall injuries and less damage to the lawn area. They would like us to pay for it. There is no sidewalk going from that door to the parking lot. Like a sidewalk. No quotes, no bids.
Why would they even give a letter like that? We support the installation, but we won't pay for it, you know? Well, of course they're gonna support putting a walkway there, if they don't have to pay for it.
And this was something that we talked about when we also talked about putting in a drive-through, you know, to have it be incorporated at the same time.
My question is why don't they just use the same door everybody else uses? Just get them the little key ring keys, like I have on my keychain, and they use the same door, and now they're not walking across the grass. I mean, there's really not a reason they have to use that end door. They can come in the same way everybody else does. They don't have to use the front door and go through the entire building. We can give it an employee entrance and save the cost of not only putting this in, but maintaining it, shoveling it. It just seems like a cost that isn't really necessary. Or Jody and I talked about maybe adding a keypad where they'd have numbers, because they don't all have that way they would get rid of the cost of buying all the magnetic things. Just put a keypad, they punch a number, the door pops open.
The amount of sheriffs that are coming in and out of here, it's not just hours, it's more than just hours. On any Saturday, I might see 4 or 5 different ones coming in to use the bathroom or whatever, and they are all using keys. I don't like the idea of a bunch of the electronic stuff floating around, not knowing who has them, where a keypad would eliminate that. But,
I think if we give out a scanned card, they have to sign and be responsible for it. Simple as that. That way we have determination of who has them, who doesn't.
Well, yeah, but she's saying other sheriffs, the ones that are just passing by, use this as, which I think is great.
They don't get it unless they got a swipe card.
But it's a substation. I mean, they should be.
For our deputies, substation for our deputies.
Right, and you say they're gonna be held responsible for everything. Well, what was going on in the other building?
There was keys issued. Keys went from person to person to person.
And then
There's a swipe card you can control. You have not only is this building monitored with cameras, but
there's
it supports every entrance and exit.
There's not necessarily always our sheriff here. Sometimes if that person calls in, it could be a Mount Clemens sheriff that's sent down here to fill in. He wouldn't have the key, but he can get the number. Well, then we don't have a sheriff on patrol. I just think it would make way more sense. That way they can have the number. And if they have to send someone out here to work that's normally not here, they just have to give them that number. They can punch in and use the substation. I just don't see the sense in putting a sidewalk out there. It's just an expense that is easily unavoidable or easily avoidable. My recommendation would be to table this and look into the cost of the keypad. I don't know who would that, Jody, who would do that, look into that, or Ryan, who would look into the cost?
I would, because it's APT and I'm already working, in fact, I already have it pulled someplace, I just have to pull it out.
You're making a motion that we table?
I make a motion that we table it until we looked into the price of getting a keypad for the actual employee door.
Support.
Motion by trustee Boyd, supported by treasurer Attenbacher. Any other question or discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? No. Motion passes. Training for planning and ZBA.
Okay, I sent everybody an email. Sorry it came so late, but I've been mulling it over. I don't know if everybody had a chance to read through it today. Okay, we've been talking about these training sessions for the Planning Commission, the ZBA, and possibly board members. Okay, we talked about possible dates and everything. The last time we talked about it at the Planning Commission level, Pat Maher stated that there's generally, it would be like 6 to 7 chapters, as he called them, which meant 6 to 7 meetings with these sessions. These sessions are like 3 hours long, I think he said. Because we even asked him, can it be done like 1 day, 2 days? And he said, well, it'd be a long day. So it would be broken into 6 to 7 times. And my point in the email was, you have ZBA members and Planning Commission members attend a meeting or a training session. They are paid to be there. They're paid on an average $100. With some are a little bit more for chair or sitter. And if you look at the figures, I said if you have anywhere from 5 to 9 members attend one session, you're talking about salary $500 to $900 just for us to be here. Then add in Pat, whatever Pat is going to charge for his time and what the class is. Then you take that amount times 6 or 7 chapters, which means 6 or 7 meetings, and you're talking about between $3,500 and $6,300 plus whatever Pat's charge cost is. And mind you, I mean, we'd love to do it. I mean, I could use the extra pay coming to meetings and the education. We've always supported education, and I'm sure because the other ZBA, the other Planning Commission members and ZBA members are probably going, what are you talking about? We wanted to do this. But right now, what it's going to cost for us to do this, is it substantiated by what we're going to save on our insurance? Does anybody know? And then who would look into what our cost would be of savings on our insurance?
It's not going to save us anything on the insurance. It's going to allow us to get more insurance. It wasn't going to change our rate at all. You also left out, and I don't think you said it was the cost for the materials, and that would be through the state of Michigan, I think. And then the insurance company is supposed to give us a reduction.
That's what I meant.
And I can't remember how much that was. I did talk to Pat about this a little bit today, and he's going to get with Steve Sapp and come back with, this is how much the materials cost from the state of Michigan. This is how much the staff, Nickel and Sapp is going to, Nickel and Sapp is going to reimburse for it. And then we can put it together and see exactly how much this training session would cost as a whole.
Okay, and that's my point. Like I said, I just didn't even think about it until the last couple of weeks, and then I started adding the figures up in my head, and I'm like, yeah, that's all great. We've always supported education and stuff like that, but cost-wise, I just want to make sure it's cost-efficient. So if we can kind of hold off on these sessions for now until we get some figures from the insurance company and stuff.
And Pat did say he would try to get that as soon as possible for us. So I would say table the training until we get more information.
Yeah, it wasn't an agenda item. There was no decision that was going to be made until.
Well, you're right. It was just discussion.
No, but there was a decision made on doing the training. We were already setting dates up. So that's why I wanted it on the agenda as discussion. so we can decide whether to move forward with the dates or not. Joey's motion now is to table the training until after more figures.
Yeah, that, we did have a discussion on it when it first took place that this training will allow us, like you said, to obtain more insurance because of our undercoverage due to the amount of events that had taken place, the amount of litigation that had taken place. So this is one of the ways to help us get more coverage to protect the township.
Right, but I just don't want to put us in the hole, a lot of money for benefits are there, so.
And we should know what that cost is before we're ready.
Right, you have a motion, Clerk Keith?
Make a motion to table this discussion until we get the numbers from Pat Locker and Nicholas Sapp. Support.
Motion by Clerk Keith, supported by Treasurer Attenbacher. Any other discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Public comments. Sir.
Eric Gala, 36201 27 Mile Road. Earlier we discussed the problem I was having. I'd like to know whether the township is going to be willing to work with me on this ordinance problem that Mrs. Luderman complained of.
Sorry to address you on that, sir.
Sure. Can I?
Absolutely.
Okay. Great. At this time, this matter is pending before the district court, and the township's prosecutor that is handling this matter is the individual that Mr. Gallo would speak to. What I can do is I can contact that attorney and let him know that Mr. Gallo wants to engage in discussions regarding this matter. He is representing the township in that court case, so I can make some contact with him and let him know that Mr. Gallo wishes to have a discussion with him and hopefully try to work out the issues through those discussions. Even if there is no phone contact, there will be an opportunity to go to court, and ultimately you'll be able to discuss the matter and present the matter to the judge in the case, and he would ultimately make a decision in the case.
Okay, so what you're saying is that you're refusing to work with me on this issue, that you decide when you send a court notice to someone and you wash your hands of this. Is that what you're trying to tell me here?
No, that's, I did not say any such thing.
That's what you're implying. You're implying that the township's not going to cooperate with me on this issue.
This is an opportunity for public comment. I'm not.
Exactly. Mr. Galen, we'll be happy to contact the attorney, which he stated for you. If you want to leave your information with Jeanette, we'll be happy to make that phone call and get you in touch with her.
I'm not interested in talking to the attorney. I'm asking the question to you, Mr. Trombley. Are you willing to work with me to resolve this issue?
Sir, the attorney's already answered that question.
No, I'm not asking the attorney. I'm asking you.
The question has been answered.
The question has not been answered. You passed it along to someone else. And
Mr. Gale, I'm not going to get in this debate with you tonight here.
Okay, so you're not going to let me.
I've let you speak.
You're not going to answer my
more
question.
than 3 minutes for the first time. I've let you speak again. Mr. Jock has answered your question. If you have any other questions, the attorney will be happy to talk to you about it.
Okay, so basically you're going to filibuster me here.
No, sir.
Yes, sir. So I don't have any rights here. I just asked a simple question. I don't think it's.
Sir, I'm going to cut you off right now.
I understand that. I understand you're going to cut me off.
That's enough, because unless you have something new you want to add, I'll be happy to listen to it, but your question has been answered. If you have anything new, I'll be happy to hear it, but if not, that's all.
I don't feel it's been answered. I'm asking the township, not the attorney.
Pardon?
I'm not asking the court's attorney. I'm asking this township.
He's not a court attorney. He's the township attorney.
He's saying he has to have permission from a court attorney.
Mr. Supervisor.
This has not been brought to court.
Mr. Supervisor, I understand that Mr. Gallo might not be familiar with the court process and how this works, and that's fine. Most people who obey the law and follow the law don't get involved in court matters, and in your case, you haven't been determined to have not followed the law at this point. That's what This is a court matter at this point, Mr. Gala, and the township's attorney, its prosecuting attorney that's been handling this matter is not the court's attorney. He is the township's attorney. He represents the township in that court case, and you are in court in that matter. And that's
This has not been brought to court.
Mr. Gala, if I can continue and finish, I think you've been offered the opportunity to make your comments on answering the question and trying to help you understand that this is a court matter. It's there for the judge to decide ultimately, unless the matter can be worked out in the method for working that out without a court decision is to discuss the matter with the prosecuting attorney that's handling the case. And what I've offered to do to help you out is to contact that attorney, get him your contact information so that he can call you and discuss the matter with you. And that's how the process would work. So I hope with that explanation, it's helped you to understand what the process is here and who ultimately makes a decision if it can't be worked out as the judge. But hopefully through some discussions that you have with the prosecutors and the township, you can work it out through the court process, which is where it currently stands.
Okay. The only other question that I have is before a notice is sent to appear in court, is there some type of notice that this might end up in court? I never received that. I was working with the township, next thing I know, a summons sent that I'm to appear in court.
Again, I'm not familiar with the processes that my office is not handling the prosecution in this matter. I will raise that issue with the prosecutor and he can address that with you as well.
If you'd like to, I believe, Jeanette, you have his information. We will pass that information on to Mr. Jopping.
Who's Jeanette?
Deputy Supervisor in the back row. We will pass that information on. Mr. Jopping said he would do that to the prosecuting attorney, and hopefully something can be worked out. All right. Okay, thank you, sir. Any other public comment? Okay. This time I'm going to need a motion to go into closed session. Would you like to?
Yes, very briefly, just for the public's awareness of what this matter is about. This has been before the board on 2 other occasions. It's relating to Oakland County Circuit Court case between Lenox Township versus Francis Manchik et al. It's case number 86-4271CK. It's a case in which the board retained jurisdiction over the matter and continues to oversee the matter as necessary. I've provided the board with advice letters concerning this that have been marked privileged, attorney-client communications that are protected by the attorney-client privilege, and it's also pending litigation. And I'm requesting that the board consider going into closed session to discuss this matter. It would be under the Open Meetings Act, in my opinion, permits the board to, upon a 2/3 roll call vote, enter into a closed session for purposes of discussing this pending litigation that I've described and also my attorney-client privilege communications. There are 2 exceptions under the Open Meetings Act under subsection E and H of the Open Meetings Act for the closed session purposes I've identified. So with that explanation, I'm asking the board to go into closed session to discuss this matter. It is possible that the board may come back out after the closed session and render a decision concerning this matter. So if any members of the public wish to remain, the board will resume in an open meeting fashion and potentially make a decision. I'm not sure if that will happen, but I just wanted to disclose that in case anybody wants to stick around. So with that, I ask the board to consider a motion for closed session for those purposes.
Make a motion that we go into closed session at 10:42 to discuss the pending legal issues.
Motion by Clerk Keith, supported by Trustee Boyd. Deputy Clerk, roll call, please.
Turchi? Aye. Boyd?
Aye.
Attenbacher?
Aye.
Keith? Aye. Trombley?
Aye. Motion passes. Closed session, 10:42. Key, supported by Trustee Turchi. All those, do we roll call on that?
No, you don't need roll.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Open session back at 11:20. Mr. Joplin?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Supervisor. We have had our closed session discussion for the purposes identified before going into closed session. And at this point, there are some further matters that I need to follow up on before the board will be prepared to make a decision on this matter. So if everything is in order, we will bring the matter back to the board for an open session decision at its next meeting.
Thank you.
Make a motion to adjourn.
Support.
Motion by Trustee Turchi, supported by Clerk Key. Any other discussion or questions? All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carried. Meeting adjourned.